The young man thought about it, frowning. The huge caterpillar was ready to fall for him. A girl with long hair and a sword on her arm was trying to stop a huge caterpillar. Destroying the caterpillar was the first task for the young man from the guild. Although the monster was huge, the young man and the girl expected that it would be easy to win. The sword of the girl, Asuna, was powerless, and the magic of the young man also did not work against the caterpillar. The monster was catching up with the girl. Then the young man came up with something. Asuna brought a caterpillar with her. She shouted to the young man, whose name was Liam, that the monster was in place. A light ball appeared in Liam's palm. Then he held his hands up and loudly commanded for the loot box to appear. In an instant, the transparent cube became even bigger. A huge caterpillar was approaching the girl and the boy. A huge block of stone began to appear from the cube, which fell directly on the monster. Asuma didn't understand what was going on. Magic is a collection of knowledge. Knowledge is power. It is owned exclusively by the aristocracy and members of the royal family. It is impossible to learn it, no matter how much you want to. Sometime later, the young man lay with his head on his arm. The maid addressed him. She wanted to know if my lord was all right. The young man was lying on the table when he suddenly woke up. He was in a huge, elegantly furnished room. There was some kind of social reception going on. There were many guests. The tables were set with delicious treats. The young man did not understand where he was, and when I looked at my hands, they were small. He couldn't figure out how his body had shrunk, and he cried out in fright. The assembled people looked at him in amazement. Suddenly, a handsome man with a mustache turned to the boy. The man wanted to know what happened to the boy, whose name was Liam. The boy did not know who the man was talking to. The maid whispered to the boy that the gentleman was addressing him. Liam was confused. He didn't know what to say. The first thing that came to his mind was to congratulate this man. The boy was afraid and wondered if he had guessed correctly with the congratulations. A man with a mustache, who was holding a glass in his hands, asked the boy to have fun at this event. The boy stood at a loss, not understanding anything. The man with the mustache walked on. Liam breathed a sigh of relief. The boy decided not to stand out in his current position. First of all, he needs to gather information. At the reception, the men wore tailcoats, the women wore ball gowns with fans. From the conversations of the people present received in half an hour, the boy found out who he was. He is Liam Hamilton, 12 years old, the fifth son of the Earl of Hamilton. This ball was hosted by the head of the Hamilton family, the man with the mustache. The event was on the occasion of the birth of a long-awaited daughter after 5 sons in a row. The initiators of the ball were the head of the family and his lawful wife, and also a concubine, from whom a daughter and 5 other sons were born. The youngest son was Liam. That was all he learned at the ball, but he understood nothing anyway. It was night. The reception continued in the huge mansion. The boy couldn't figure out why he became Liam Hamilton. The boy woke up in bed in the morning. He was upset that he was still Liam. The boy looked at himself in the mirrors. He touched his cheeks. They were smooth. Without the beard, he seemed completely different. When Liam saw himself very young, he remembered that he had been told that a beard was a sign of an adult and proof of masculinity. The boy was upset because all the credibility had gone to hell. A maid knocked on my Lord Liam's door and wished him good morning. She brought clothes to choose from for the boy. Liam was surprised that he could choose any kind of clothes. Only now did he realize that he had become an aristocrat. Liam found out from the maid that aristocrats inherit their title up to the 3rd generation. If nobles up to the 3rd generation have somehow distinguished themselves in serving the motherland, then they have the right to continue the line of succession. And if not, then from the 4th generation they become ordinary people. The current head of the family, Liam's father, Charles Hamilton, is in the 3rd generation. If he does not prove himself in the current generation, then his descendants will become commoners. The easiest way to stand out is if the daughter is chosen as the prince's bride. After 5 sons, Lord Hamilton had a daughter. That's why there was such a grand ball yesterday. Some time later, 2 boys were sitting in the classroom in front of an elderly teacher who cheerfully greeted his students and decided to start classes. The teacher was rudely interrupted by one of the students and said that he had been preparing for the lesson in vain. This brute was Bruno, the 4th son of Charles Hamilton. Liam and Bruno went to the city's private school together. Liam looked at his brother with annoyance, who didn't care about anything in life. Liam asked Bruno what he thought about his sister's birth. The older brother said that they were nobles anyway. They could go to a private school and do what they wanted after lessons. Liam was surprised when he heard that they could do whatever they wanted. According to Bruno, the Hamiltons are the oldest family. They have a long chain of generations, and therefore they value their reputation. Bruno was born the fourth son in a noble family and wanted to use it and take everything from life. The brothers walked through the city streets. Liam informed his brother that he wanted to learn magic. Bruno looked at his younger brother carefully and called him a weirdo. Bruno tells his brother that there is a library on their estate. There are manuals for teaching magic, and I advised you to try it. But Liam didn't know anything about the library. Then Bruno said that the talent for magic is given to only one person out of 100. When Bruno said that you need to take everything from life, Liam thought that he wanted to learn magic. He quickly ran to the manor. He met the maid on the porch and shouted to her to take him to the library. The maid was frightened and led my lord down the corridor to the library. As they walked, the boy thought that the real Liam should know his estate. When the maid opened the doors to the library, Liam smelled a strange smell. The maid explained that it was the smell of books. There are a lot of books in the room, and when closed, they start to smell like this. Liam was very surprised and happy. This library was a completely different world to the commoner he was. He took one book from the shelf, which was called Entry-Level Fire Magic. Liam opened the book and began to read that increasing the temperature is simple magic, but only one person in 100 can do it. The boy did not want to finish reading the preface and immediately started practicing. Liam stretched out his finger, concentrated, watched his breathing, and ordered the flame to appear. A small flame appeared on the tip of his index finger. He was very excited about magic. The maid was happy for my lord and congratulated him. Magic is a collection of knowledge. Knowledge is power. It is owned exclusively by the aristocracy and members of the royal family. It is impossible to learn it, no matter how much you want to. Liam didn't understand at all what had just happened. Liam has learned magic, and in the future he will be able to learn a lot more new things. Such an aristocratic life began with him for an unknown reason. Maybe now, standing in the library and holding a book tightly in his hands, he is ridiculous, but very inspired. There was a knock on Charles Hamilton's office. It was Liam. He hesitantly opened the door and stuck his head in. The father, without looking up from his writing, asked his son why he had come. Liam hesitantly and fearfully asked his father if he could borrow some books about spells that were in the family library. Charles said blankly that the boy could do whatever he wanted. Liam was delighted and thanked his father. When the boy stopped at the door, the father asked with displeasure if his son needed anything else. Liam said he didn't need anything. Without looking up from his work, Charles asked the boy to leave because he was busy. Liam came out of his father's office and breathed a sigh of relief. He was glad that he was allowed to use the library. Now Liam sadly understood what Bruno was feeling. The boy was happily wandering around the garden with a book in his hands. The clearing surrounded by trees was a good place to practice. But he was still surprised by what the maid had told him. Liam asked her how big the Hamilton family's holdings were. The maid told me how far my lord's gaze extends. The boy was glad that he had become a nobleman. But if the Hamiltons become commoners, then all their lands will be taken away from them, and the mansions will be transferred to the general treasury. Liam sat down by a tree and began to study the book. He read carefully and diligently and began to practice. He closed his eyes and concentrated, followed his breathing, and began to visualize. A minute later, nothing came out, and 2 minutes later, there was nothing. But 3 minutes later, a small fiery blade appeared in the air in front of the boy. Liam was very scared and surprised. A book fell out of his hands. Only now did he understand how to use the book. As long as the spell book was in his hands, the boy could use magic. It will take him a lot of time and training to master spells without a book. Liam wanted to practice every day to activate spells without a textbook. Liam's dearest wish was now in his hands, and there was no reason why he shouldn't practice magic, and he had plenty of free time. He is a nobleman and does not need to work. A month later, Bruno found Liam in the garden. Bruno thought that his younger brother was playing alone. Then Liam reminded his brother that he had told him about practicing magic. The older brother became interested, and he asked Liam to show him what he had learned. Liam hesitantly put the book down on the ground. Then he concentrated, watched his breathing, and visualized. When Liam stretched out his hand, something began to appear from his palm. He shouted loudly, "Fire blade!" A huge fiery blade appeared in the air in front of the boys. Bruno was very surprised. He was amazed that Liam could use magic without a textbook. Bruno couldn't believe what he had just seen. After all, it hasn't been more than a month, and it should take a year to master the spells. Our brother was wondering how Liam learned the spells so quickly. Liam said he worked out every day. Bruno grabbed his textbook and started reading. He thought there might be this special spell book. After all, the Hamiltons are the oldest family, and it is not surprising that the library contains the most incredible artifacts. The elder brother, with a book in his hands, began to stretch out his arms and try to use spells, but he couldn't do it. In the end, Bruno got upset and gave up. Then he praised Liam and asked him if the younger brother wanted to become the head of the family. Liam was surprised. Then Bruno told me that the aristocrats eventually receive an inheritance, and he wished that his younger brother would become formidable like their father. The head of the family chooses an heir during his lifetime so that problems do not arise. But it was different with the Hamiltons. When the father passes on the inheritance, the children will become the fourth generation, and they should go from aristocrats to commoners. It was important for Bruno that they continue to be aristocrats. Only now did Liam understand why his father was frowning. Bruno threw the book to his brother and called it stupid. The older brother didn't like the book, and practicing magic, he said goodbye and left. As Liam thought, Bruno had 10 minutes to study. Liam was walking down the hall with a new book. He had already learned all the spells from low-level fire magic. This new book was low-level ice magic. Fire magic can be used by one person out of 100. And in ice magic, you need to lower the temperature, not raise it, because only 1 in 1,000 can possess this magic. Fire is easy to get without magic, and ice is impossible unless it's winter. Liam was happy to read the new book. The boy really liked this book with false ice spells. He wanted to try it out as soon as possible. The boy immediately wanted to use magic. The book said that magic should be applied to a spellbook. Liam thought that the book might freeze, although the book had probably been prepared for the unusual effects of magic. Liam concentrated and held the book in front of him with both hands. Suddenly, the book completely ignited. In fright, the boy dropped the book and began to stamp on it with his feet to put out the fire. Charles Hamilton appeared behind the boy with a servant. The father started shouting at his son that it was forbidden to light a fire in the hallway. When Charles saw the spell book, the boy was very scared. Liam picked up the book and stood in front of his father. The man noticed that this book was ice magic, but the boy had just lit a fire. Liam began to explain to his father that freezing was hard for him, and therefore he accidentally caused a fire. Charles was very surprised. Suddenly, Charles grabbed the boy by the shoulders and began to ask if his son had used magic without a book, so he had mastered fire magic. It was only now that Liam noticed that his father looked into his eyes for the first time. The father asked the boy if he had learned ice magic. Liam said he just picked up a book on ice magic today. Charles wanted to see his son's magic in person. He led the boy into a large room. The maid placed a chair in the middle of the room where Liam sat down. The father looked attentively at the boy, who was very worried. He opened the book and realized that in ice magic you need to weaken the power, and in fire magic you need to apply. Liam focused on the technique of breathing, on the distribution of power and visualization of how it flows through the body. He had to do everything exactly as described in the textbook. The book froze in Liam's hands. Charles and the servant couldn't believe their eyes. The head of the family started laughing loudly and saying that heaven had blessed him. It was the first time Liam had seen his father like this. Charles promised to get any magic book his son wanted, and he asked Liam to show the magic again. After Liam left, Charles was approached by a servant and told that there was a man in the Hamilton domain. Liam didn't understand anything when he left his father's house. Although the father promised to get any magic book for his son, everything was not so simple in magic. Liam knew that the most important thing in learning magic was training. To train gradually, step by step, from the beginning to the end. At this rate, the boy can master ice and other magic. Suddenly, the boy saw a strange man who was sitting near a tree. Liam stopped abruptly. The man who was leaning against a tree recognized the boy by his clothes. He asked Liam if he was the Hamilton's son. The boy introduced himself as Liam Hamilton. The man admitted that he had made a mistake and faced his fate. Therefore, he was waiting for punishment from the boy. Liam didn't understand what this man wanted from him. The stranger thought that the boy had come to arrest him. The man grabbed his head and asked the boy not to pay attention to him, seeing that the boy did not understand anything. The man thought that no one had found out that he had committed a crime because they couldn't send a little boy. Liam silently walked away from the man. The most important thing for the boy right now is to master ice magic. He closed his eyes, concentrated, watched his breathing, and suddenly heard a man's voice that there was an effective way. The boy abruptly opened his eyes and turned to the man who was standing behind him. Liam was wondering what the effective way was. The stranger said that in low-level magic, everyone remembers by repeating the same thing, and offered the boy something else. The man told the boy that it was possible to use several types of magic at the same time. He reached out his hand, and suddenly there was a different magic on each finger. Flames, ice, lightning, and air appeared from each finger. Liam was very surprised. The stranger said he knew the book the boy was holding. This book described the methods of ice magic, ice needle, freezing, frost nail. The man assumed that the boy was going to teach them in order. The man confidently suggested another way, demonstrating his magic on his fingers. He suggested that Liam learn everything at once to save time. Liam was fired up by the idea and was ready to start immediately. He was ready to do whatever was necessary. The man was surprised that the boy did not have noble pride. But he still told Liam that he was asking him not to be proud, as is typical of the noble. The first thing the man asked the boy to do was to draw a square on the ground with his right hand and a circle with his left. Liam didn't understand what the point was, but he picked up 2 small stones anyway and began to draw shapes on the ground. Liam turned out to have very beautiful figures. The man asked the boy if he had practiced before. Liam replied that he had drawn it for the first time. Then the man asked to apply the magic he had learned with different hands at the same time. Liam concentrated, watching his breathing. He should have a fire blade in his right hand and a fireball in his left. He began to visualize to release 2 different forces. Flames began to appear in his hands. Suddenly, a fireball and a fiery sword appeared in the air in front of the boy. Liam was amazed by his magic, and the man smiled and thought. Liam was very happy that he had succeeded and realized how to use different techniques in magic at the same time. The man looked at the boy carefully. He was wondering how the little boy did it the first time. Liam didn't know yet that using multiple types of magic at the same time was a technique called secret treasure, which could only be possessed by 1 person out of 100. An unknown man and Liam Hamilton were standing in the garden. After the boy managed to apply 2 types of fire magic at the same time, the man asked him to try 3 at the same time. The boy was surprised, but agreed. Liam didn't know who this man was, why he suddenly decided to teach him magic. The boy did not understand anything, but obeyed him. Liam held out his hand. She began to use magic confidently. Liam shouted loudly, "The first hand is a fire blade, the second hand is a fireball, and the third is a wall of fire." Liam Hamilton is happy and pleased with himself because he managed to apply 3 types of fire magic at the same time. For him, practicing magic was fun. Suddenly, his fire magic began to disappear. Liam was upset and angry with himself. He was ashamed in front of a man, but the stranger praised the boy for doing a great job. The man was interested in the boy. The man told the boy that everything had been learned from him properly. Only Liam didn't have the strength. This technique requires twice as much energy for each type of magic individually. But at such a young age, activating 3 types of magic was incredible. Liam was glad to hear the words of praise addressed to him. If the boy does not have enough strength, then the man wanted to explain to him. He asked Liam to sit down. Liam obediently sat down and looked at the man with enthusiasm. The boy does not know the origin of this man and his name, but for Liam Hamilton, this man became a teacher. As the boy was sitting, strange inscriptions began to appear on the ground next to him. These signs on the ground were written by themselves. The man asked the boy what these numbers meant. Liam replied that the numbers were 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, 13. Liam couldn't understand anything. The teacher said that these are prime numbers, and you can activate as many types of magic at the same time as the prime numbers allow. Even if you learn how to activate the first 3, you will stumble on the 4th one. Liam was surprised that the 4th and 6th levels can be stuck for a long time because they cannot be implemented. Then the man warned that if you overcome the 4th, then you will not get stuck on the 6th because you will already have experience. Liam thought with annoyance. He didn't understand anything about prime numbers, but promised himself that he would try to remember. The stranger has demonstrated his current limit. He stretched out his hand into the sky, and many kinds of magic appeared in the air. Among them were water, fire, air, ice, stones, thunder, swords, animals, etc. Liam looked at the magic of the teacher in surprise and began to count the types of magic. He counted to 13. The man agreed with the boy, and he added that it feels like he can advance to 16. This level is not activated. A stranger has activation up to the 13th level. After the 13th, there is 17. At 14, 15, 16, activation is impossible. and in the 17th, activation is back. The man explained that this is the weakness of such a technique. Any minor progress is held back by these limitations. Liam realized that as soon as a man reaches 17, his skills will instantly improve. The teacher praised the boy for being smart at such a young age. Liam thought to himself that he was actually older. The man noticed that youth is a weapon, and being able to listen to others is an even more powerful weapon. Liam agreed with the man's words that youth is a weapon, but listening to others should be natural. At these words, the stranger laughed and called the boy funny. The stranger suddenly asked the boy if he still wanted to learn magic. Liam gladly agreed. Then the man gave the boy something. Liam was surprised because it was a ring. The man explained that it was Magipedia. In simple words, it's a giant spell book. Liam was surprised that there could be hundreds of textbooks in such a small ring. This ring was an object for training, collecting, and arranging spells from hundreds of textbooks. Liam clenched the ring given to him by a strange man in his fist. There are spells from 100 books in this ring. Now more than 300 names should pop up in the boy's head. The boy put the ring on his middle finger. Spells popped into his head. He decided to start with a shot of wind. The man was closely watching the boy who was trying to activate the spell. The teacher noticed that the student's main weapon is his zeal. Liam got the wind shot spell. Suddenly, the maid came and started calling for my lord Liam. The boy turned in surprise to the maid, who had been looking for him for a long time. The maid warned the boy that it was dangerous to be alone in such a place. There were many wild animals in this thicket. The maid was afraid that the boy might be bitten by snakes or some poisonous insects. Liam was surprised because he wasn't alone. When he turned to his teacher, he was gone. The stranger is missing. The boy doesn't know how it happened. The maid came to give Liam a book called Low-Level Summoning Magic. It was a request from the master. Liam thanked the maid and asked her to tell her father that he would personally thank him later. When the maid left, the boy sadly remembered the teacher. Suddenly, the boy heard his teacher say from behind that his father had sent him a spell book in time. Liam was very scared. He immediately asked where the teacher had gone. The stranger said he hadn't gone anywhere. He used magic. The man disappeared with the help of invisibility magic. Liam was surprised that invisibility magic existed. The man said that this spell is in the boy's ring. It is quite difficult, but over time you can learn. The stranger told the boy who was holding the book that there was no time to waste. Finally, he wanted to teach Liam something. The teacher asked to open any page in the book, then try to practice some spell from there with the help of a ring. Liam gladly agreed with the teacher. He opened a page that had a low-level summoning magic written on it. He hadn't tried this one yet. The boy thought it would take him an hour to activate. The boy was holding an open book with one hand, and he put his other hand with a ring on his finger to the page. He closed his eyes and began to summon the salamander, a low-ranked fire spirit. Suddenly, the ring on the boy's finger began to shine, then a small creature jumped out of it. This creature is a small fire salamander. The boy was surprised that it happened so quickly. The little salamander spun around and climbed back into the ring again. Liam was surprised and didn't understand anything. The teacher explained to the boy that the contents of the spellbook had simply been transferred to his magic library. The ring was only suitable for storing information, but it would have to carry fewer books. Only now did Liam understand the purpose of the ring. The man suggested that the boy try to write something else down. Liam started with the call of the sylph, a low-ranked wind spirit, then the call of the undine, a low-ranked water spirit, the call of the dwarf, a low-ranked earth spirit. When the boy finished keeping the spirits in the ring, he turned around and did not find the teacher. Liam thought that the teacher had gone back to Invis. Then the boy noticed the inscriptions on the ground. These inscriptions were left by a stranger. He wished Liam good luck in mastering magic and hoped that he would meet the boy again. Then, at the end, he added that the boy should not tell anyone about the teacher. Liam felt sad that the stranger had suddenly left. Liam didn't know why, but he decided to comply with the man's request and not tell anyone about the meeting with him. After all, the boy considered him his teacher. It's been a month since the boy's teacher disappeared. Liam, alone, persevered from morning to evening in practicing the simultaneous use of several types of magic. He has learned 100 spells and can release 5 types of magic at a time. Liam slowly walked back to the mansion. He was met on the porch by his father, who was interested in whether his son had gone to the thicket again. Liam didn't expect to see his father. The boy opened the bag he was carrying and showed it to his father. There were crystals in the bag. Charles took one crystal. They were Lekukuro crystals. They were completely transparent, and there were no impurities in them. The boy's father was very surprised. Liam practiced magic and slowly created Lakukuro crystals, which are able to instantly restore spent mana. These crystals are created from the earth on which the Lakukuro plant grows. It was written in one of the library books that Lakukuro impurities are able to absorb mana, so the purer the crystal, the higher it is valued. Charles Hamilton asked his son with interest how he managed to make these Lakukuro crystals. Liam started telling his father. Liam first used the summoning of a dwarf, a low-ranking earth spirit. It was the first spell out of 5 that a boy could use at the same time. When the dwarf appeared, Liam ordered him to inspect the land around Lakukuro and pointed towards the flowers. Dig up the earth, the color of which is different, and collect it into a ball. And don't forget to get rid of the grass. The dwarf obediently flew and dug up a huge earth with Lakukuro flowers. Then all the plants fell off the piece of land, and the dwarf turned the earth into a big ball. Liam started heating the ground with 3 fireballs. At this time, the number of simultaneous spells reached 4 types. The boy used the summoning of a sylph, a low-ranking wind spirit. Liam ordered the spirit to make the burning block of earth burn even more. At this time, the boy was using 5 types of spells at the same time. The little wind spirit began to blow into the fireballs, thus fanning the flames that completely enveloped the huge ball. The earth began to melt under the pressure of the fire. Crystals appeared along with the thawed earth. Liam was delighted that the purest Lakukuro crystals, made with the help of 5 spells, turned out. The little gnome and the wind spirit rejoiced with him. Charles Hamilton was very surprised to hear his son's story about crystal mining. He compared his son's use of 5 types of spells to having 5 magic teachers working at the same time. The father praised Liam and hoped that his son would continue at the same pace. The boy was very pleased with his father's words. Liam was happy that they had become a real father and son for the last 2 months. The boy was very pleased when his father praised him. Liam was back in the thicket. He used a fire blade to chop down trees from which he made small firewood, and with the help of the spirit of the earth, he tightly closed these firewood in an earthen shell. After all the firewood was placed inside the globe, a small hole was left at the very top to make a stove. A huge earthen cauldron was heated with 3 fireballs. Liam remembered the fire salamander, but he just needed fire, so it's better to use fireballs rather than a salamander. The little salamander was offended by the boy. Liam ordered Sylph to make sure that non-flammable air did not enter the boiler. It is necessary to heat the boiler to ultra-high temperatures in a completely sealed state, and so that non-flammable air does not enter inside. When steam began to come out of the hole in the cauldron, Liam ordered the dwarf to plug the hole and remove all the earth when the fire went out. Liam burned firewood at a higher temperature than needed to make charcoal. The boy magically made a white coal. If you burn white coal, it burns at a higher temperature. There is almost no smoke and lasts longer. It is quite difficult to create it, but therefore white coal is more valuable than charcoal. The boy liked white more than black. Liam, satisfied with his work, tapped the white coals against each other. Someone was walking behind Liam. It was Bruno. Liam was very scared that his brother had suddenly turned to him. Bruno looked at the white coals with displeasure and told his brother with annoyance that now he was having fun creating these trinkets. Liam took offense at his brother when he threw the firewood aside. He asked his older brother why he had come to him. Bruno smiled and said that he had unexpected news. Bruno was going to get married. Liam screamed at the news. Bruno said that the girl came from a family of lower aristocrats. Compared to the Hamiltons, they live poorer, but they are the first generation. Let Bruno retire, but continue to be a nobleman, which was already enough for him. Liam didn't know what to say, but he congratulated his brother. Bruno was happy because the future is quite normal for his 4th son. Bruno looked at his younger brother intently and added that he could tell a lot more interesting things. When Liam became curious, Bruno added that it was about their father's huge mistake. It happened when Liam was born. Charles has put forward an army to pacify the demon. The long-awaited child turned out to be a boy, and his father was impatient to perform some kind of feat. Charles, the head of the Hamilton family, condemned 1,000 troops to death in an attempt to subdue a giant monster sealed in their territories. Charles planned to remove the seal and thus accomplish the feat. Liam was amazed to hear such a story about his father. That's why Charles stopped trying to accomplish the feat. This monster was sealed by the Hamilton ancestor from the 3rd generation. If you perform a feat once, put a seal on, and subdue a monster, then you can secure the status of up to the 6th generation from one monster. That's why Charles was trying to defeat the monster. Then Bruno looked at his brother carefully and advised that the younger brother should start thinking about how to leave this family. Liam was surprised by his brother's words. Liam, thank your brother for the advice. Bruno, saying goodbye, added that Liam needed to make as much effort as possible. Liam began to think that he was the fifth son and he needed to get back on his feet no matter what happened in the future. A little later, Liam was already in town. He wanted to try to sell white coal. At the charcoal store, Liam was thanked for his cooperation. He was very happy. Liam came out of the shop and was glad that he had sold the white coals at a good price. If he sells, he will be able to save money to leave the family. But this money was not enough. Liam thought he needed another product, one that would become his weapon. He was thinking of creating a basic necessity like charcoal. As he pondered, his stomach rumbled with hunger. The boy was very hungry. Fortunately, there are a lot of shops with noodle soup and various additives in this city. Liam wandered around and looked at the places where the townspeople eat. There were stalls everywhere. It looks like people in this city love noodles. The boy went to one stall and asked for noodles with salt. The boy was given a huge bowl of soup with noodles, eggs, and herbs. It looked very appetizing. Liam happily started eating noodles. Liam returned to the family estate and headed to the kitchen. There were servants and cooks there. The maid did not notice my lord, but the boy said that he went into the kitchen himself. Liam asked for hot water and a bowl. When the maid brought the kettle and an empty bowl, Liam took out the dried noodles. He put the square noodles in a bowl and poured boiling water, then gave the maid a taste. The maid tasted the noodles and was delighted with the taste. She did not believe that all she had to do was pour boiling water. Then the cook took the bowl from the maid to taste what she was delighted with. Liam looked at them with joy. Liam knew that in this city, noodle stalls are in high demand, not only because people love noodles, but also because raw noodles are difficult to store, and so the boy came up with one solution. Liam came up with the idea to cook dried noodles. He ordered Undine to extract the moisture from the raw noodles, but they became tasteless. Then the boy decided to use noodles soaked in rich broth. Then Undine blew in dried noodles. The cook began to praise that the dried noodles are so simple but so delicious and can be eaten right on the spot. Liam suggested calling it instant noodles. Liam was confused when the cook realized that he had cooked the noodles. The boy was glad that it was pleasant for him to work, because he was a commoner. Now all Liam had to do was sell white charcoal and instant noodles to save up money. Liam went to the Noodle Guild. The man behind the counter informed the boy that he could not make a deal with him. Liam was surprised at the rejection. The master of the Noodle Guild ordered noodles from Liam for 10,000 portions in advance, and then he immediately refused when he found out that the boy was the fifth son of the Hamiltons. The boy was very upset. Apparently, someone who is not the heir has no right to trade without the permission of the family. If Liam wants to trade, there are two ways. The first is to become an adult and move out from your parents. The second is to trade not on the Hamilton lands, that is, to make a deal somewhere in distant lands. At this rate, Liam Hamilton will not save money until he moves out from his parents. But he realized one thing. The Hamilton lands would not bring him income. We need to look at other possessions. Even if Liam managed to sell white coal for the first time, no one will make a deal with him a second time. This made the boy very upset and angry. Liam Hamilton is determined to sell his product at any price. Since he can't do it on his lands, he'll have to go somewhere else. The boy went back to the thicket, where he usually practices magic, and began training with firmness. He stretched out his hand, and a small white square appeared in the air. It was a loot box. Liam learned the spell from the magic box, loot box. If you learn how to use it, you can store all the coal and all the noodles that he created there. The boy put charcoal and noodles in the loot box, one at a time. An inscription appeared above the white square, pure white coal, 84G, noodles, 1 serving. The boy was glad that the list appeared. Liam deleted the loot box and called for another loot box. The loot box that the boy had summoned was empty. He decided to master this spell well, otherwise the contents would disappear every time. Creating white coal, making noodles, and practicing loot boxes are included in the daily training schedule. That's how another month went by. Once again, Liam filled the square and an inscription appeared, where it was written that pure white coal weighs 101 grams, noodles 1 serving. The boy invoked a cancellation spell and immediately called for a loot box. No items were missing in the loot box that appeared. Liam was very happy. Now he has the goods and the spell ready for transportation. It remained to master the method of movement. Liam has mastered the roomy loot box, but he needs to find a convenient way to move. If he uses Magipedia spells, he can cut the travel time in half. Summoning magic is divided into two large types. The first is a spiritual call that summons the spirit of any creature living on Earth. The second is a contract call that summons other creatures by first signing a contract with them. Liam stood in the middle of the magic circle and stretched out his hand and called for a contract call. A contract summoning usually materializes a creature inferior in strength to the magician himself. Liam summoned himself. A second Liam appeared in front of Liam. One of them said goodbye and counted on him, the other left. One of them was looking at a loot box containing 318 kilograms of pure white coal and 1,045 portions of noodles. On the third day, 318 kilograms of pure white coal and 36 Jamila coins remained in the loot box. Liam was very happy that Noodles had cashed in silver coins. The silver coins were called Jamili. Liam was glad that the illusory Liam was doing well. Then the real Liam cancelled the contract draft. The real Liam and the illusory Liam stood opposite each other. One of them was glad that he had succeeded. Each of them knew who was real and who was illusory. After the cancellation of the contract draft, there was only one real Liam left. He was immensely glad that he had managed to sell and return with the proceeds. It would have taken him 6 days, but it turned out to be all 3 days. Liam Hamilton was happy that he would save up money and leave his parents. At that time, there was a young man sitting in the mansion who was angry at Liam. The young man did not know what Liam was going to do. He wanted to stop Liam before he got stronger because he was afraid for his position. When Liam was practicing in the thicket, a young man approached him. He was looking for a boy. This young man's name was Albruant Hamilton, the first son of Charles Hamilton, the eldest brother. Liam was surprised that his older brother came to him. The brother praised the boy for his success in learning magic. Then he added that the servants in the house only talk about the younger brother. Liam was sweating with fear, but calmly added that the maids were just spreading rumors. Albruant seriously asked who Liam wanted to become in the future. The boy did not know what to say to his brother. Albruant is the eldest of Charles Hamilton's sons and the future head of the family. Liam thought his brother suspected him of something. Liam cheerfully replied to his brother that he wanted to become an adult as soon as possible, then find a job that would pay a lot. The boy wanted his brother to believe him. Then the older brother decided to take Liam to the Hunters Guild. A little later, Liam found himself in the city. He was standing in front of the huge Hunter Guild building. A guild is a huge team of people with the same skill. The Hunters Guild is a place where people gather to hunt animals and monsters. Liam hesitantly entered the building. There were many adult men who were sitting at a table. The horses did not understand what the boy was doing in such a place. They told Liam that kids didn't belong here. Some thought Liam was an errand boy. Liam turned to the bearded man who was the guild master. He immediately recognized Liam Hamilton and said that Mr. Albruant was talking about the boy. Guildmaster told Liam that he had to pass the test first. He wanted to see what the boy was capable of before sending him on a mission. The guildmaster may have problems if Liam dies. The bearded man had heard that Liam was good at magic and wanted to see the boy's powers. But with a grin, he asked me not to rush into reading spells. Then he asked the boy to attack with some powerful spell. Liam threw 5 fireballs towards the guildmaster, which hit the wooden wall, flying past the man's head. Guildmaster was very scared. The men who were sitting next to him were amazed by the boy's strength. They had never seen such magic and thought they were high-rank magic missiles. Guildmaster was amazed by the boy's magic and decided to give Liam a B-rank license, although at first she wanted to give him a C rank. Liam left the Hunters Guild in thought. He was looking at the token with the chain and didn't know what to do with the B rank, and he walked slowly through the city. Suddenly, a beautiful girl with long hair and a beautiful skirt turned to him. The girl was wondering if this boy was really from the Hamilton family. The boy confirmed that his name was Liam Hamilton. The girl was delighted and said that her name was Asuna Aqua Age. Asuna immediately invited Liam to go hunting with her. The boy did not know what to answer, but the girl continued that it was dangerous to go hunting alone and offered her company. Liam thought that this girl was too energetic, but positive. It turned out that Liam really likes the type of this girl. Asuma and Liam shook hands. The boy agreed to the girl's proposal and hoped that they would work together. Asuma was happy because it turned out the way she wanted it to. Liam admitted that he never got the assignment. Asuma explained that only those who have reached the A rank receive assignments. Those above rank A take assignments and go after a specific goal. The girls showed Liam a paper with a list of tasks of rank B and below. Everyone finds a target on this list and goes to kill, and then gets rewarded. Liam admitted that he had heard something like this before. Asuma and Liam ended up on the Western Road. The girl said that an important person was going to go there soon, and they would have to clear the road. Liam thought about it and admitted that his father had said that an acquaintance should stop by. The girl said it didn't matter who was going. The most important thing was to catch the wild dogs that frequented here, and if they bring the dogs to the guild, they will be paid. Asuma took out 2 sharp swords. She admitted that she is very good at close combat, and with a bow and arrow, she doesn't work out. Liam admitted that his weapon is magic. The girl was wondering what kind of magic the boy possessed. Liam added that he knows more than 100 spells. The girl was surprised. At that moment, scary, shaggy dogs appeared from behind the bushes. Wild dogs suddenly surrounded Liam and Asuma. The girl was scared. Liam assumed that Asuma would strike the decisive blow. Asuma was confused and did not know what to do. Then the boy decided to start summoning dwarves. The boy stretched out his hand and summoned many large and small dwarfs. The dogs started grabbing them with their teeth. One dog was approaching the girl. She was not scared and took out her swords. Sometime later, a crowd of men gathered outside the Hunters Guild building, looking at the corpses of wild dogs. The guildmaster clarified with Liam that there were only 42 animal corpses, and for each head he gave 3 silver jameels, so that later Liam and Asuma would divide in half. The guildmaster hunters were surprised and did not expect that the boy and the girl would be able to cope with this task. Guildmaster offered Liam a job. Liam and Asuma were walking together. The girl looked happy because the guild had given them a task. Usually, the guild gives a task only to those who have proven their strength or made a great contribution. They had an assignment to destroy the monster on the Western Road. There is a magic crystal inside this monster. Perhaps because of him, the monster uses magic and is fluent in high-level combat skills. Asuma was afraid that she would not be able to cope with the monster, but she still suggested finding the monster and getting rid of it as soon as possible. Liam and Asuma could barely stand on their feet. It was obvious that they were losing the battle against the monster. The girl was angry that the monster's skin was too thick, that even her swords couldn't hurt. Liam was sad because his magic didn't work, even though he had hundreds of spells. Asuma thought the boy was joking when he talked about it. The girl was upset that they were finally given a task, but they could not complete it. Asuma said with annoyance that it would be good if a meteorite fell from the sky directly on the monster. The girl began to distract the caterpillar so that it would follow her to the place where the trap was. Liam called for a loot box, and a lump began to fall out directly onto the caterpillar. Asuma was surprised, and the block crushed the monster. Liam and Asuma dragged the monsters, of which there were 2, to the square near the Hunters Guild. When Liam cast the search spell, there were 2 monsters, and they had to kill both of them. There were a lot of people around who were staring in surprise. Asuma reminded the guildmaster that he had said that an important person was coming, and it would be bad if the monsters disturbed the guest. After these words, the guildmaster promised to pay 5 times more to Liam and Asuma. A few days later, an important guest arrived. Asuma and Liam were recognized by the Hunters Guild for defeating 2 caterpillars and welcoming the guest in the front rows. Charles Alberwood Hamiltons were the organizers and provided a welcome for the guest. A lot of people gathered to meet an important guest. The older brother turned to Liam by inviting him to the Hunters Guild for a reason, because he quickly found himself in the forefront and asked Liam not to make mistakes. Asuma didn't like Liam's older brother. A carter drawn by 2 horses pulled up, and an elderly man came out who carefully examined everyone. Liam and an important guest found themselves in the same room. The boy did not know why he was sitting in front of an elderly man. This man introduced himself as James Stanley. The boy also introduced himself. James clarified whether Liam is definitely the son of Charles Hamilton, although he wasn't interested in it. The older man asked Liam what his relationship was with Raymond. It was the first time the boy had heard this name and did not understand who it was about. Then James pointed to the boy's ring. This thing belonged to Raymond. James asked the boy if he had killed and took the ring. Liam was outraged by such words and said that the teacher personally gave this ring. Liam had to tell James everything about the teacher. After Liam's story, the older man laughed out loud. It turns out that this is very similar to Raymond, and James was surprised that he had a student. An elderly man called Simon's servant and told him to stand by the wall. James asked Liam to release the best attacking magic into the servant. He wanted to see the boy's strength with his own eyes. Liam agreed. He learned that with the help of reading, it is possible to increase the maximum of the released attack. For reading, you need to use words that resonate in the heart and do not disturb the spirit. Liam used the names of his favorite singers. He had only 7 attacks. With a sweep, there will be 11. Liam fired 11 magic missiles and said additional words. Claudia, Amelia, Amelia. No matter how the servant defended himself, he was still hit by the boy's missiles. James laughed when he saw his servant lose the fight. The older man praised Liam and remarked that he likes massive attacks. Since Liam was the 5th son, James assumed that the boy wanted to gain independence. The older man suggested that Liam become a knight first. The boy was surprised. The next day, the government's order came, and Liam was officially knighted. In a huge temple, standing on one knee, Liam officially became a knight. And he received a beautiful sword from James's hands. The man noticed that now his brother would stop looking down on Liam, but his father, Charles, has not yet decided on his feelings. James suggested that the boy become a soldier under Charles's guidance in order to glorify the name of the Hamiltons. Liam agreed. James said Raymond likes to make fun of others, and I asked the boy if he was joking with him. Liam said the teacher wasn't kidding him. Only recently, when he was practicing with the loot box, something strange happened. Liam told James that he wanted to absorb all the water from the lake and move it to the loot box. The loot box showed that it contained 36 Jamila coins, 5,788 liters of clean water, 100 kilograms of gold dust, and a letter to Liam. The boy took out the letter and began to read. It was a letter from the teacher. The teacher wrote that since Liam is reading this letter, it means he has mastered the loot box. The teacher asked the student to suck all the water out of the lake, then shake out the living creatures in water. A gold bar cannot be put in a lake, so the teacher threw gold sand into the lake. It was a graduation present for Liam. Since he is the 5th son, he could use the money to separate himself from his parents. If Liam thinks that he is unworthy of money, then the teacher asked him to think about why there are exactly 100 kilograms. This will be the graduation exam. The teacher was glad that the boy had mastered the loot box and other spells from Magipedia. Liam decided that the answer to the problem was that the teacher also took out 100 kilograms from the loot box. That's how the boy told the whole story to James. James told the boy that the teacher's gold was just a cover, and the real gift was hiding nearby. The teacher disguised the real gift so that Liam would not immediately understand. The boy was surprised that there was a real gift. Liam ran to the lake and started using the loot box to absorb water. The boy stared intently at the empty pit instead of the lake, and I couldn't figure out what was hidden there. Liam emptied the lake and went down to the bottom of the pit but found nothing. He began to remember the teacher's letter. The boy could not understand why the teacher turned the gold ingot into sand, because the ingot can sink and the sand can mix with water. The boy decided to shake out only the golden sand from the loot box. There were 100 kilograms of golden sand on the dry bottom of the lake. The situation is completely the opposite. Suddenly, magical figures formed around the sand, on the ground. On the ground inside the magic circle, an entrance opened down, underground. Liam walked slowly down the stairs. He didn't understand anything. The boy saw a small room underground. There was one book on the table and a letter next to it. Liam started reading the letter that was from the teacher. They wrote to Liam, since he solved the riddle. The teacher was glad that the boy had figured out the hidden plan and mastered the loot box. It was the rarest spell from Magipedia. The teacher gave Liam a high spell book for his services. This book is classified as a high-ranking spell. The boy picked up the Supreme Book of Spells. The teacher couldn't use this book, but he hoped Liam would succeed. The boy was wondering what kind of magic book it was, since even the teacher couldn't. It was already dark. Liam was still in the underground room, studying the book. Several hours have passed, but he has not been able to apply the other world. The boy used magic, and a low-ranking spirit of light appeared. All Liam needs to do is follow what is written in the book carefully and in order. Liam managed to create a door and get to another place where everything was white. Another world creates space in another world, not in this one. Also, no one can invade it without the knowledge of the wizard. With the help of a new magic skill, you can build a house, even a base and a secret hideout. Liam was very happy. His dreams are coming true. It's been a month since Liam got the spellbook. He trained every day, and now he can release another world for up to 10 minutes. Asuna and Liam were on a mission. This is an assignment from a rank A guild. They were fighting a giant toad. Liam summoned the fire salamander and, with the help of additional words like Amelia, Amelia, Claudia, strengthened the force. But the fire did not take the toad. Then Liam decided to shoot with pikes, and Asuna asked him to hit the same place. Asuna stabbed the monster in the back several times with her sword. Then Liam asked the girl to step back because a volley of 7 ice needles was being prepared. Something strange began to come out of the toad's mouth. Liam had read the spell from the book at the beginning of the battle, and now it worked. A door appeared in the middle of the battle. Liam invited Asuna to come with him. They entered the door, trying to escape from the toad, which flashed lightning in all directions. They found themselves inside a white room and watched the sting attack with discharges. They could have died if they were outside. When the toad calmed down, Liam and Asumi came out of the door and decided to use a concentrated attack together. At the Hunters Guild, Liam and Asumi gave the guildmaster the magic stone of the giant toad. Asuna said that they had completed the tempering and brought the stone. The guildmaster noticed, holding a small stone in his hands, that this task takes a week. The guildmaster thanked Liam and had to admit that the boy was really amazing. When Asuna was offended that she was forgotten, the guildmaster smiled and added that he was grateful to her too. Then the guildmaster invited the girl to become a familiar, but she refused. Asuna needs to become even stronger for the familiar. Otherwise, she will only get in the way of Liam. The boy didn't know who the familiars were. Guildmaster talked about legitimizing the relationship between a master and his subordinate with the help of contract magic. Mages sign a contract with a demon and hire him as a familiar. The contract was made with demons because they are useful in battle. Asuna asked what would happen if a contract was signed. If the creature enters into a contract, it will not be able to resist the orders of its master. With the strength of the master, the abilities of the familiar will also improve. It is believed that the familiar will become stronger to protect the owner. The girl liked it. Asuna offered Liam a contract. The boy began to dissuade her, although he did not mind. She trusted Liam and begged him very much. Liam agreed. The conclusion of the contract takes place officially in front of witnesses. Asuna knelt down on one knee and kissed Liam's hand. Asuna learned to move quickly after the ceremony. She got a new skill, Speed Star. It looks like Liam helped Asuna evolve. Everyone was surprised by the girl's new powers. The girl received a love letter and everyone started looking at her. She thought it was because they killed the toads. Liam told Asuna that she got prettier as soon as she became a familiar. Asuna brought Liam to Jody because the boy wanted to find a partner and find out more about the contract with the familiar. Jody was an experienced hunter, about 40 years old, calm and reasonable. Asuna asked Jody to sign a contract with Liam. She agreed. After the ceremony, Jody turned into a young beauty. Asuna thought that this was Jody's new skill. Jody wanted to check something out and came back with sandwiches. She gave them to a man with a wounded arm. After the guy ate the sandwich, his hand immediately healed. Jody's cooked meals heal wounds. James and Liam were sitting at the table. Due to the fact that rumors about the boy's powerful power spread in the city, the first royal Scarlet Sherry Jamil decided to visit Liam. Princess Scarlet was interested in Liam's familiar. James asked to show them to the princess. The boy refused. He did not want his friends to be treated like animals. Liam didn't know what would happen if he refused the princess. But even if he had a contract with a familiar, he didn't want to order them around. He considered them his friends, and he firmly refused to meet James with the princess. After Liam left, James went to the princess and apologized for not being able to carry out Her Highness's order. The princess let down her hair and told James that it wasn't his fault. She was in a maid's uniform. It was the same girl who poured tea for Liam and James. She became interested in Liam. She wanted to meet the boy in person. The princess was interested in Liam Hamilton, who is 12 years old and owns different types of magic, performs a task of rank A, and he has 2 familiars that he can improve. She decided to invite the boy in 3 days. The carriage drove up to the castle, where there were many guards, and Liam came out surprised. Charles warned Liam to behave himself. Princess Scarlet appeared in front of Liam in a long dress. The boy was surprised by her greatness. He had never been so worried before. Liam knelt in front of the princess. James and the servant were standing behind her. The princess asked that a chair be brought to the boy. She was wondering how Liam defeated the caterpillar and the giant toad. The boy could easily answer these questions. The princess noticed that, with a high-level attack, the battle ended quickly. The boy became interested in this technique. Stella also wanted to know about the contract with the familiar and wanted to see them. She waited for Liam to say something. Liam refused to show his familiars. He noticed that the princess was pushing her pressure and wanted to suppress it. He also remembered that James and his father had asked him to behave with dignity. Liam asked for forgiveness and firmly refused to show his friends. At these words, the princess laughed out loud and praised him for his sincerity, and she admitted that no one had been able to cheer her up twice. Princess Stella stood up and said loudly that she was awarding the title of Baron to Liam. The boy was surprised that, having amused the princess, he received a title, and his father tried to accomplish the feat. The princess called Charles a pimp. The princess gave Liam a magic book on signing contracts with a familiar. The boy was very pleased with the book. Stella noticed that the boy was more pleased with the book than the title. These ones interested her. Liam sat in the thicket and studied the book he had been given. He read about the temporary contract, how the contract is terminated. At that moment, someone noticed that Liam was practicing magic again. It was Bruno. He should be at his wife's house, but he came to visit. Bruno congratulated Liam on receiving the title of Baron, and with a grin remembered Albert, who must be angry. Now Liam has become a higher status than his brothers. The nobles were divided like this. The Baron was the lowest, the Viscount was higher, the Count was even higher, who was the father of the boys, the Marquis, and the highest title Duke went next, and semi-noble knights. Bruno was happy for Liam because he had surpassed his father. But at the estate, Liam was openly hated by his eldest brother. Liam didn't understand his older brother's drastically changed attitude. Albert hated and was angry at Liam because he would be the fifth son, who was nobody, and became the first in the family to receive the title of Baron. Albert hated Liam, his magic. Liam has changed since he first used magic. Even the servants in the house annoyed Albert. When he heard them calling Liam Baron, Albert shouted at them. Albert shouted at the servants, asking them who was better, the son of the Count or the Baron. The maids were frightened and said that the Count's son was better. Albert owned all the lands and people of the Hamiltons. He wanted to surpass Liam. In the city playground, Liam, Asuna, and Jody were sitting in an open restaurant. All the guys around admired the beauty of the girls. Everyone wanted to get to know them. Liam thought that the beauty of girls attracted too much attention. Jody turned to Liam and said that she would faithfully serve the master. The boy was embarrassed by the word master and asked not to address him like that. Then Jody decided that she would address him simply as Liam-kun. Asuna understood why she called the boy master. For Asuna, Liam was reliable, strong, even if he was younger. Jody joined in her words. Liam was glad of the warm words, but the look from the other guys made him uncomfortable. The girls said they really wanted to hunt together. The three of them decided to work together. After leaving the cafe, they decided to take an order for the remaining wild dogs. It was their first hunt. They headed for the western road, where the dogs were. Jody drew her bow and arrow. Suddenly, they were attacked by wild dogs. Jody's arrows landed right on the dogs' backs, and Suna became even more agile. She wielded her sword accurately. Jody's eyesight has improved more than ever. Vision is the most important thing for an archer. Then Liam used magic to improve his eyesight to make it even sharper. Now Jody could see what the bunnies were doing in the dense forest. Liam was scared when Asuna came. She was surprised when she found out that Jody could see the flycatcher nest. Asuna asked Liam to improve something for her too. He couldn't improve her physical strength. Asuna fought in close combat and uses her hands. If you hit her hard, her hands might hurt, and if you increase the attack power, your arms will break. In the distance, Jody noticed one dog. She crouched down and fired. The arrow hit right in the head. The distance to the dog was 100 meters. Asuna and Jody were happy with their strength and thanked Liam. When the three came to the guild for the reward, people were gathering there in a hurry. It turned out that the Hamiltons' eldest son had removed the seal and suffered a crushing defeat. Liam remembered that his brother was angry at him and wanted to surpass him. Liam ran quickly. In the forest, he met a huge army, but they were all wounded, and there were many dead among them. Liam found his older brother in the bushes. Albert recognized Liam. She grabbed her younger brother's clothes and tried to strangle him. At that moment, someone hit his older brother on the head. Albert lost consciousness. The guildmaster hit him with a wooden stick. Then he ordered him to be taken to the city. The guildmaster was glad to see that Asuna and Jody had come along with Liam. The guildmaster said that the dragon Ladon is sealed in the depths of this forest. Liam remembered that Bruno had told him that his father had failed with the pacification of the previously sealed dragon. The seal was removed by Albert. Guildmaster knew how to put a seal, and the team was ready to create it. There were people in cloaks and carrying books behind the master. They conceal it. However, there was one obstacle that hindered them. These were the younger Ladons. They were the offspring of this dragon. They are responsible for the current horrors. Liam was surprised that the army was defeated not by the dragon, but by his children. Due to the fact that the dragon has been sealed for a long time, it will take him a week to fully recover his strength. The Hunters Guild can fix everything if they seal it in that time. But there was one problem. This problem was the younger Ladons. Liam, Asuna, and Jody were ready to fight. Suddenly, they heard soldiers running towards them. They were shouting that the dragons were coming here. Liam saw a huge dragon, and in front of him were 3 small dragon children. One of the cubs wounded a soldier by the arm. The soldier asked for help. These cubs were the size of an average dog, but they were able to defeat an entire army. Asuna was the first to rush into battle. She wanted to attack one baby dragon with 2 swords, but a flame appeared from the mouth of the cub. The dragon attacked Asuna from all sides. She barely managed to dodge. In the end, the cub attacked with a huge flame. Asuna and Jody were scared of the fire. Liam summoned magic missiles in a 7-fold shot, but the little dragon managed to extinguish the boy's shots. Liam wondered how the cub managed to do this. There were 3 small dragons in front of Liam, Asuna and Jody. The girls thought they couldn't handle it, and it would be better to give up. But Liam was thinking how to defeat the dragons if one-time attacks don't take them. Liam came up with a plan. He ordered Asuna to grab Jody and run. Asuna was a speed star and was not inferior to dragons. Liam called for a loot box. A white square appeared. He came up with the idea of locking all the cubs in one place. Liam took out the book that the teacher had given him and summoned another world. And he strengthened the spell with the names of his favorite singers. All 3 cubs entered through the door. Then Liam abruptly invoked the magic of cancellation. Liam fell to his knees and didn't know if he had succeeded. He was sitting in front of a huge dragon. The guildmaster saw that the younger Ladons had disappeared and ordered the men with cloaks and books to seal the big dragon. The cloaked men raised one hand and began to cast spells. They surrounded the huge dragon and sealed it. Liam has not fully mastered the other world yet. Without the magic book, he wouldn't be able to activate it. The boy thought he was going to lose. The guildmaster is amazed that the boy managed to defeat the Ladons Jr. alone. Liam said he took advantage of a feature of another world. If it is bad to own a loot box completely, then every time you use it, all its contents disappear without a trace. Liam, as a magician, was not there inside, but the younger palms launched inside were destroyed. Liam stood in front of the huge dragon as the cloaked men sealed it. Then the girls found Liam. He asked if the girls were injured, but they were more worried about the boy. Liam explained to the girls that he used another world, and with the help of magic, he creates additional space. Asuna remembered seeing something like this. Jody asked if Liam had locked those dragons inside. The boy admitted that he had not yet learned to the end. Then Asuna was afraid that the dragons might escape from there. Liam calmed them down. If the spell is not mastered, then all the contents will disappear every time. Hearing this, Asuna let out a sigh of relief. Asuna and Jody praised Liam. He didn't use a magic attack, but he used another world in an unusual way. Suddenly, a voice rang out, saying that man was an insignificant creature. Everyone was scared and turned around. The people in the raincoat didn't know what was going on. It was the huge dragon who spoke to Liam. The boy didn't know what to say. The dragon spoke to the boy. He called the boy an insignificant man with a great soul. When Liam called him a dragon, he said that people call him a dragon now. Then the boy asked him if he was not a dragon. The dragon was not interested in human standards. It will take several hundred years, and people will come up with a new name for him. The dragon turned to Liam again and called him a man with a great soul and asked who he was. Liam replied to the dragon that he was just a human being. Then the dragon said that his soul and body were not suitable for each other. Liam wondered if the dragon had realized that the boy was actually an adult who had moved into this body. Liam wondered how the dragon understood this. The dragon continued and said that, unfortunately, even he did not know the reason. Then Liam was even more surprised that the dragon could read his mind. The dragon said that the boy had an interesting life ahead of him and offered to join him. The dragon wanted to follow the boy's life path, but Liam was wondering who the dragon really was. The dragon refused to talk about himself. Instead, he decided to help Liam. In addition to the painstaking work laid down, the dragon will give the boy a much more powerful force. Then Liam asked for strength. The boy did not feel threatened. Rather, the dragon even looks like a teacher in some ways. The dragon understood the boy and asked him to settle in Liam's great soul for a while. The dragon lifted slightly, and something bright sparkled. Liam had to cover his eyes with his hands. Then something bright landed on the boy's chest. Asuna noticed that Liam had a dragon drawing on his arm. Liam looked at his hand, and a drawing appeared on the hand where he was wearing the ring given by the teacher. The guildmaster couldn't believe that Liam had taken in a dragon. Everyone was very surprised. Liam felt the heat. There is a huge force circulating inside his body. The heart pushes the blood and carries it to each of its cells. Liam felt the incredible power of the palm all over his body. Liam summoned magic rockets and stretched out his hand with a dragon pattern to the sky. Huge magic rockets flew from his hands into the sky. Liam called for 11 pieces without reading them out. Then he decided to use reinforcement and started calling names: Amelia, Amelia, Claudia, and he launched magic rockets into the sky again. There were 17 rockets. At that moment, Liam turned around and saw that a man in a raincoat had fallen to his knees in front of him. Liam got scared and asked what happened to him. A strange glow appeared around the boy's body. The dragon's voice told Liam to stop her. Liam didn't know that his mana would have such an effect on people in a raincoat. They began to tremble and weaken. Liam assumed it was because of the dragon's power. But it didn't work on Asuna and Jody. Then Jody assumed that it didn't work on them because they were the boy's familiars. The guildmaster was surprised by the power of the dragon power. He thanked Liam for saving them from the dragon. Liam sadly asked me not to thank him. On the contrary, he apologized for sucking the mana out of them. The boy didn't do it on purpose. But Liam kept saying he didn't do it on purpose. That's not what the boy was apologizing for. Guildmaster didn't understand what Liam was apologizing for. Suddenly, a loot box appeared, and golden sand poured out onto the ground. Liam said there are 10 kilograms of gold here. He asked to accept them as compensation for moral damage, and he asked to divide the gold among themselves. The boy asked to give it first of all to those who need long-term treatment. Liam was trying to apologize for his brother, because of which there were many dead and wounded. The guildmaster smiled awkwardly and didn't know what to do. He said it would have been better if not Alberwit, and Liam was the head of the Hamilton family. Sometime later, Liam was talking to his father at their estate. Charles thanks Liam for solving all the troubles behind Alberwit. Liam said with a smile that his father shouldn't worry. The boy would not be able to sit idly by. Then he asked his father what would happen to his older brother. Charles said Alberwit would be under house arrest for a while. My father also warned me that Sir James was still in town. When the story gets to the center, maybe someone will come to reward Liam. He wasn't happy about it. The guildmaster told Liam that Alberwit could be disinherited. After that, Liam was restless. The eldest son could be disinherited. Liam's head was spinning from these thoughts. Liam was worried that Alberwit had committed this act through his fault. Although the father and the guildmaster say that the boy is not to blame and should not worry, Liam felt the weight of responsibility. Liam's feet led him to Alberwit's room. The boy wanted to knock on the door, but did not know what to say to him. Alberwit was lying in bed with his head bandaged and shouting that this was the end of the Hamilton family. He smashed a vase of flowers with his hand, and the maid asked Mr. Alberwit to calm down and keep quiet. The eldest son was annoyed and offended that the dragon was eliminated by Liam, a representative of another kind. Alberwit wanted to do it personally, by himself. Liam sadly thought that Alberwit was the one who wanted to protect the Hamilton family the most. The boy realized that Alberwit was just using his power, following his own emotions. Before he became Liam, the boy was exactly the same. He sighed heavily. Liam walked down the hall without going to see his brother. He felt sorry for the hunters, although Jody would cure them by cooking them food. Liam wanted to ask his father that he wasn't so strict with Alberwit, how troublesome it was with the older brother. In the dream, Liam trained in mastering new magic, but he did it not with the help of a magic book or Magipedia, but with the help of a dragon coat of arms that appeared on his hand. Liam woke up abruptly on his bed. He understood what was going on, but he seemed to know a new spell. The boy ran into the garden, to his place. Liam has learned 2 new spells. First things first, it wouldn't activate, but he could feel it. He stretched out his hand towards the sky, and I thought that the same thing was happening as with the other world. Liam decided that he should, like all previous times, hone it hard for a long time. He clenched his hand into a fist and was ready for new training. A small dragon appeared. Liam was glad it worked. The summoning of Ladon Jr., a low-ranking dragon. The boy was afraid to approach the little dragon. He thought he was going to be bitten. When Liam touched the dragon's head with his hand, he began to caress the boy. This little dragon was very cute and cuddled up to Liam. The boy was happy and promised the dragon that when he mastered the spell, he would make the baby strong. The princess appeared behind Liam. She looked at the boy in surprise. The little dragon immediately disappeared. She couldn't believe that there was a magician who possessed sacred magic, and this magician turned out to be a child. Liam asked the princess in a frightened voice what had brought her here. She smiled maliciously and said that his father had asked her to deliver a message, and she called Liam Lord Hamilton. Now he is also Lord Hamilton like his father. The princess presented Liam with the Order of the Phoenix of the 3rd degree. She said that pacifying the dragon was a great feat. If she didn't give the landless tomboy something more than the title of Baron, then the old people would make a commotion. Liam was surprised by the order. Before Liam moved into this body, monsters often appeared near the village. For a while they scared the residents, but one day rumors began to spread that someone had defeated them. Then they calmed down after hearing that they had been defeated by a famous hunter. The princess asked Liam how he managed to subdue the dragon. She wanted the exact story of how it happened. Liam decided to tell them more about it, because they would feel safer. Liam caught Princess Scarlet's displeasure and told her about the Ladon incident. But then, from the moment Liam started telling how Ladon possessed him, the princess's expression changed. The princess couldn't believe what Liam had told her. She decided that he was using sacred magic after all. She realized that she was very mistaken. The princess asked Liam not to tell this story to anyone. The boy did not quite understand what the girl wanted. Then she yelled at the boy not to tell anyone anything. Liam was scared by the princess's screams. The next day, a chest of gold coins was delivered to the Hamilton house. It was the princess who sent 3,000 gold coins for Liam. This is a reward for having subdued the dragon. When Liam opened the chest, the maids were very surprised by such a reward. But Liam believed that this was not a reward but a payment for silence. In a huge estate, Liam sat across from James. He had just asked the boy if it was true that he possessed sacred magic. Liam didn't know where to go from Sir James's gaze. The boy remembered that the princess had told him to be silent, and therefore he did not know what to answer the old man. Liam was very worried. James said that Her Highness is still very young, and I asked Liam why he would get such a large amount of money. The old man admitted that he was constantly told not to trust the boy. Liam can ensure the continuation of his status because he subdued the dragon. Then this will be reported to His Majesty, and he will personally pay all the necessary honors. Those who know the aristocrats well have no choice but to make guesses. James continued and said that he had heard many people see how the dragon's body turned into light and penetrated the boy's body. These words made Liam sweat even more and completely droop. Liam finally resigned himself and admitted that he had learned several sacred spells. He mentally apologized to the princess and confessed that he had blabbed, and he had already been split. James asked for a show of strength. Liam concentrated, holding out his hand with the dragon crest. I did a sweep, increased my strength level, connected the palm of my hand, and pronounced the names of the singers. His hand began to shine brightly. The boy invoked a low-level sacred magic of complete purification. His hand was glowing brightly. James didn't understand what kind of spell it was. The boy explained that this spell eliminates all objects in an abnormal state. An abnormal condition is petrification or poisoning. James noticed that it is not for nothing that they say that sacred magic is the creation of the gods. Then he asked the boy if he knew about the War of the Three Dragons. The boy did not know and asked the old man again. A long time ago, there were 3 dragons who were at odds. They possessed the power to cause disasters and cataclysms on Earth. One of the dragons triumphantly defeated the other 2. It was said that the dragon possessed sacred magic, which is considered to be the creation of God's hands, and therefore had an advantage. Then this dragon got to know the people who founded the kingdom with the help of sacred magic. The kingdom that humans founded with the help of the dragon was the country where Liam and everyone else lived. Then James asked the boy what comes to his mind when he hears that a dragon has become close to a human. Liam replied that they probably got married and had children. James said everyone thought so too. James added menacingly that the boy had become close to the dragon. Then the old man pointed with his finger at the drawing on Liam's hand. Liam agreed. After all, the palm penetrated into his body, merged, and became one with him. It was only after contact that Liam learned sacred magic. James said that the creature believed to be a dragon was the founder of their country. Perhaps this dragon can be called their ancestor. Liam was scared because the dragon, their ancestor, was sealed. James said there were 2 things to worry about. The first is the destruction of the Hamilton family. Although Liam did not consider his feat a real feat, it wasn't important, there was another problem with the actual cases. The old man continued and said that the dragon was furious and planned to take revenge on their country. Liam pointed out that this was because the dragon was imprisoned for a crime he did not commit. Liam thought that now the fate of the country and the Hamilton family depended on Ladon. The boy remembered his family, his father, who was concerned about the idea of inheriting titles, the hostile Albruit, Bruno, who abandoned the family. The Hamilton family initially had no connections or acquaintances. Only the fifth son remained, who gained independence and did not feel that he had to help his family. But Liam was one of the people who started this mess. Liam turned to the dragon and asked what he thought about it. Ladon did not answer, but the boy got his feelings. Ladon was not angry and does not even have such thoughts. Liam remembered the dragon's words that he was not interested in human standards. It would take several hundred years for people to come up with a new name for him, and he added that he had shown interest in his life. James has come to the conclusion that the boy is the Messiah of the kingdom, and the country has been saved by you. And he admitted that this feat was the greatest he had ever seen. Liam walked through the city and looked at his hand with the dragon crest on it. He has remained like this since he appeared. Mastering it can increase its activation time. The boy decided that while activation takes a lot of time, it is worth using it as usual. If activated, you can just shoot. It will also be useful in practicing teleportation. Asuna and Jody were waiting for Liam at the Hunters Guild. The boy was surprised when the girls turned to him. The girls said goodbye to the guys. Then they abruptly grabbed Liam and ran. The boy asked who those people were. The girls admitted that they all wanted to be on their team. They heard that Liam had subdued the dragon. The girls handed over a piece of paper covered with writing. When Liam asked what it was, the girls replied that it was a list of people. Asuna suggested that the boy decide for himself, and Jody said Liam was the leader of their group. It was the first time Liam had been so popular. He walked slowly home. The maid called out to him and said that my lord had arrived on time. She led him to a table full of sheets. The maid said that Liam was constantly being asked to hand over documents. The boy did not understand what kind of papers they were. The maid said they were invitations to a viewing party. When Liam was standing in horror over a bunch of invitations, Bruno came. He brought the order from above. Bruno asked what his younger brother had done. He said he had only subdued the dragon. Bruno said that the noble and talented nobles gathered for a reason, and they did not come for a trifle. Liam was surprised and didn't know what to say. Liam remembered that Sir James did not trust him, and the princess would not just send him a huge amount of money. Liam was alarmed to think that the aristocrats were already building their theories around him. Bruno smiled and watched as his younger brother sorted out the invitations to the show. Liam was embarrassed because the invitations were not only from women, but also from men. All three heroes are far away in the forest, away from all people. Asuna asks what the main character wanted to show them. He takes them a little further and shows them the door, saying that he wanted to show them another world. Touching this door, he says that the girls will now understand everything themselves and asks them to follow him. Although with disbelief, both girls agree and follow him through the door. Then the shock is read on their faces, and they can't believe that immediately after they came out of the mirror, there was a house in front of them. The house itself looks very presentable. It is quite spacious and beautifully equipped. Asuna, pointing at the house, says that the last time she passed through the door there was nothing there. And he asks the main character how he did it. The guy says that since he first activated the other world, he dreamed of building a house inside it. The hero begins to explain his plan to them. From the very beginning, he instructed the city carpenters to build a house without a foundation. And then the guy dragged the house inside the loot box. The girls are surprised by his well-thought-out plan and say that it was a very brave decision. The girl with blonde hair asks if he built this house with such difficulty, then he will not disappear later, like those younger Ladons. He is proud of himself and says that nothing else will be lost because he has honed the other world to perfection. The main character is very happy about this, even more than the girls, because now he can fully enjoy his pastime in another world. Both in the city and on the Western Road, the main character activated the other world many times and made sure that the house would not disappear. And now he can rest in it without worrying that it will disappear. He created a house that can be accessed from anywhere. The girl asks the guy if she can inspect the house from the inside. The guy asks the girls to choose the rooms they like. Jody is surprised and says they won't have to sleep outdoors anymore. Going inside the house, the girl sees in front of her a spacious sofa, furniture that creates an atmosphere of comfort in the house, and everything necessary for life is here. However, the main character interrupts her and confusedly adds that water and food will still have to be replenished on their own. The girl finds a bed and immediately lies down on it, saying that the bed is very soft and she will sleep soundly on it. But there is no happiness at all on the face of the second girl. The blonde girl noticed this and asks what happened to her. A dark-haired girl walks up to the window and addresses the main character, asking if he has thought through the lighting. Liam tells them that it will be hard for them to sleep at night, but there is nothing they can do about it. However, he decides to summon a low-ranking spirit shade, which looks like a small black ball with wings like an angel. The guy asks this spirit to plunge this whole space into darkness. Asuna says they can't see anything at all, but Jody agrees with her and says it's really too dark. The main character summons another spirit named Salamander. A lizard appears in front of them, and he asks her to light a fire in the fireplace. Without delay, his request was fulfilled. Jody says this light is just right, and Asuna says it's very relaxing. And yet, the girl is worried about this darkness. She thinks it would be better if the room was lit up like at night by moonlight. Liam asks Shade if he can adjust the darkness level. The spirit waves its whole body, as if to show that this is impossible. The girl, who until recently enjoyed the fireplace, is now wondering what would happen if spirits could evolve like humans. And then the main character gets an idea. He touches the shade, while summoning the familiar. A large black ball with wings like an angel reappears in front of him, but now you can see his emotions. The guy is surprised that his spirit is so huge, and Shade can even talk, so he flies up to the blonde girl. And he thanks her because, with the help of a contract with her, he was able to turn into a medium-ranked spirit. The spirit currently in front of her was able to evolve. Jody notices that it has become dark, just like at night. And Shade says that it's all thanks to the master, and he will work wholeheartedly for their benefit, so he asks to call him anytime they need him. The main character stops the spirit and wants to tell him that he can't summon it without the magic of summoning medium-ranked spirits. And Shade tells him that there is no problem with this because he possesses a ring that uses ancient secret magic to store numerous knowledge, and he can enclose a medium-ranked spirit summoning spell in it. But Shade has not finished and says that this knowledge will be stored there because the master needs to master this magic from scratch. The guy tells him that he will do so and tells him to get into the ring. The Shade, with a serious facial loss, says it will be done, and shackles, restraining forces of the spirit surround him, and the ring sucks him inside. Now Liam can summon low-ranking spirits of all kinds of magic: fire, water, earth, wind, light, ice, and finally darkness. And he only had to develop his familiars to the next stage. The lizard looks at how the Shade has evolved and hints to the guy that he wants the same thing. The spirit thanks him for allowing him to evolve, and he asks to be called Ifrit. With the permission of the familiar, the main character enclosed a medium-rank spirit summoning spell in a Magipedia. The girl asks the guy if he remembers the ring and the Ifrit, but the guy tells her that he's just sitting in the ring. The happy protagonist, after his success, reflects that he needs to continue training. After all, he had received spells to summon medium-ranked spirits, and this made him go even further towards his goal. The next day, the guy went to the forest where Ladon is located. He squatted down to take a closer look at the place, and he notices that in this place, where he passes his hand, there was a palm. He speculates on where the dragon might still be, and he says that 100 meters to the northeast, and somewhere in the depths of this forest. The main character came here only at Ladon's request. A voice coming from nowhere says that the guy is a man with a great soul, but the main character is not at all surprised by what is happening and immediately realizes that it is a palm tree, and she asks him if he's still tired of calling him that. And he tells Liam that he didn't think about the fact that the guy knows how to develop spirits because it shows how big his soul is. And Ladon would like to borrow his unique power and asks the main character for a favor. His request was to call Ladon Jr. The guy says the words that make his hand begin to shine, and he calls Ladon Jr. And here comes a little dragon who does not understand where he is. However, he goes into the whirlpool, and Liam follows him. And so they both find themselves in a beautiful clearing where fairies live. The whole lawn is planted with flowers. The fairies notice two uninvited guests and are horrified, shouting that a man has entered their territory. But Liam, inspired, asks them to stop and says that he is not their enemy and he came at the request of Ladon. The fairies calm down and freeze for a while, looking warily at the uninvited guests. He asks them to look at Ladon Jr. The fairies fly closer to them and begin to examine the dragon. saying that it really is the child of the divine dragon. The main character then tells the fairies that Ladon asked him to protect them. After all, if weak fairies are left alone, then people will exterminate them all. Their wings and pixie plumage are valuable materials for making magical artifacts. And to protect the fairies from hunters, Ladon deployed a barrier around them and guarded them. So now he wants Liam to inherit this responsibility for him. The main character asks the fairies if they mind if he uses magic on them, since there is no way without it. The fairies give him their consent. Ladon tells him to say their name along with the spell. The guy casts a spell, talking about contract magic, a familiar, and points his hand at the fairy from which the light comes. Liam says her name will be Reyna. The girl, in turn, is surprised and asks if she has really become an elf. Ladon draws conclusions and says that it has now become clear to him that fairies are evolving into elves. And if, during the conclusion of the contract, you give a name to an unnamed creature, then the magical power in it begins to resonate and can cause a transformation effect. And from now on, when Liam makes deals with nameless creatures, then let him give them names first, although he will spend more energy on this. The main character tells him that he understood everything. Elves are a race that secretly lives in the forests, away from human settlements. They look exactly like people and understand human language and lead a lifestyle close to people. But the significant difference lies in their life expectancy. And just a few years later, they grow up to the level of a human teenager, and then they live for many hundreds of years, preserving their youth until their health weakens. Eternally young and beautiful elves, for most people, they are ghostly and attractive. At the same time, the fairies who watch their girlfriend evolve want the same thing. The girls turn into elves, and he gives the name Natasha to one and Near to the other. Some time later, he still turns all the fairies into elves and continues to give them names, but at least give one girl the name Tessa. This is very exhausting for the guy, and he realizes that he has already used up a lot of mana, and also tired of coming up with new names. Brianna comes up to the guy, making a bow, and says that he did a great job. Liam thanks her and asks if she's pregnant. The girl says that's her name, and she can't help but be glad that the guy remembered her name, and she asks Liam to tell her what to do as his familiar. The main character is a little confused by this request, but he remembers that Ladon asked him to take care of them. The guy tells her that they should build an elf village and settle in it. Reyna replies to him that this will be done. She approaches the other girls and suggests they build a house, which everyone else is thrilled about. The main character, turning to Reyna, says that he will appoint her head of the village. After all, someone has to keep order and organize everyone, and it will be Reyna who will do this. From these words, the girl is delighted and says that she will build a village that he will like. Some time later, the main character finally sits down on the ground and says that he is too tired because he spent too much mana. Lying on the ground, he does not understand why he feels the accumulation of magical energy from the depths of the forest. He goes straight to the light source, and he sees some kind of fruit in front of him. He realizes that the light comes from him. The guy asks Reyna, pointing out to him what it is. The girl tells him that they were constantly collecting these things, and this is somewhat similar to how bees collect honey. Ladon tells the guy to try this fruit, and Liam, in turn, clarifies exactly whether it can be eaten. The girl tells him that, and he can eat it as much as he wants, and since they're elves now, they don't need him anymore. The main character plucks him from a branch, looks at him incredulously at first, and then bites him. And they are surprised how good his taste is, and that, thanks to this fruit, he feels a surge of mana. And now, taking into account the reading, the guy is able to release 19 magic missiles. He raised his limit of simultaneous spells even higher. Sometime later, the guy is sitting peacefully under a tree and looking at the girls says that they are working hard. Meanwhile, the girls are carrying boards for their future home. Reyna addresses Liam as a messenger. The guy asks the girl to call him by his first name so that there is no misunderstanding between them. The village headman comes up to him and informs him that they have finished building the house, but it does not look very good. The house looks like a light breeze can blow it away. The guy, seeing this picture, asks if this is exactly the final version. But Reyna, getting upset, confesses to the guy that she has no idea how to build houses. The guy asks her not to apologize and says that there is nothing wrong with that. It was he who forced them to do unusual work for them, because carpenters are usually engaged in such a task as building a house. Some time later, robbers came to them and they immediately began to set their own rules. One of them grabbed the girl by the hand, from which she began to scream loudly, asking him to let her go. But the man just laughed in her face and tells his friend that a battle has recently taken place here. They came for valuable things, and he says that the elf he holds in his hands is worth more than 100 things lost to hunters. Liam stands and watches the whole scene, not knowing when it would be better for him to intervene. But the robber approaches the girl's throat, intending to lick it, and says that they have not sold her yet. The main character can no longer stand this, and asks the man to remove his dirty hands from the girl. The robber does not understand how this boy can contradict them. His friend asks Liam to play the fair hero elsewhere. After all, now the adults will get to work. The girl, who is in the arms of men, begins to call Liam, and tears flow from her eyes. And the man is already flying at the guy with a fist, and tells him not to underestimate adults. Liam, in turn, uses a magic rocket, shooting it right in the man's face. A large number of such attacks cause a man to fall to the ground. His comrades are not happy with this outcome of events. Therefore, they decide to intervene themselves, simultaneously calling the main character names and telling him not to run into trouble. The main character uses a summoning spell, Liam, and then he gets a clone. The robbers do not understand why the guy split up. While his opponents are distracted, he uses magic missiles, aiming them directly at them, thereby saving the girl's life. Susie runs up to Rain in tears, saying that she was very scared, and the girl tries to calm her down, but to no avail. The guy understands that they can't stay here, even though he planned to build an elven village here, but it's too dangerous here, and we need to find a safer place. The main character is thinking about where he can find this safe place. Although he has a house in the other world, it is unlikely that all the elves will fit into it. Then he notices something and stops. Liam sees that the house has become bigger and assumes that it was because he ate pixie honey. After that, he joyfully runs up to the girls and informs them that he will take them to a safe place. Sometime later, they all came deep into the forest, where there is a door in the middle of the trees and forests. Liam tells them that they have come and asks them to go through it. Raina carefully takes the first step, not understanding where she is now, then asks the guy where they are now. Liam tells her that he brought them to this place with the help of a magic door through which they had just passed. The girl is surprised by the power of the guy and the fact that he was able to transfer them with just one spell. All the girls fall on their knees, as if bowing to the main character, and also call his name and beg the guy to become their leader. Liam stands in complete shock. He takes a few steps back, not expecting to see such a violent reaction. And yet, the guy does not understand why he should become their leader and asks the girls about it. Verena only clarifies that people seem to call them the king. He doesn't understand what kind of king he can become for them, but the girls, with their arms crossed on their chests, ask him to become their master and lead them through life because they can't do it without him. And then Raina declares that if the main character becomes their king, they will do anything for him. All the elves cringed, waiting for a response from the guy. But the guy just sighs and realizes that the girls were serious. And yet, embarrassed, he agrees to their request and says that he cannot call himself king, so he will just be the leader. Happiness is visible on the girl's face. She cannot believe what she has heard and thanks the main character for his decision. And Liam argues that, in this case, the girls will need a territory where they can live. 4 days later, all the girls are sitting on a log and talking sweetly to each other about how instant noodles taste great. Someone asks you to add more boiling water to your portion. The guy sees the happy and contented faces of the girls, and it calms him down. After all, he continued to work tirelessly on the supreme sacred magic that he received from Ladon, and then the dragon tells him that the guy remains in his repertoire. Liam doesn't understand what Ladon means. The dragon explains to him that the main character is insistent to the point of outrage, but the guy replies that this way, he will be able to master magic better, and just thinking about it makes his hands itch. Ladon declares that Liam is still an amazing person, and the guy asks if he really thinks that. Liam finally reached the place he needed, and the dragon reminds him that all that remains is to say the destination in his head, and he asks the main character where his double is. To this, the guy just grins contentedly and says that he is already in that place and he has provided for everything. Then he turns to Rain and asks her to gather all the elves to this place. Sometime later, the elves came to the main character. The guy tells them that it's time to start, thereby making it clear that they mentally prepare themselves. He says a spell that talks about the highest sacred magic, teleport, and after these words, everything around them begins to change, and now they find themselves in a completely different place, or rather 1,000 kilometers from the past, and they call this place the Sealed Land. The guy, looking down the cliff, wonders if it's a cliff. Happy Liam runs up to his double and is surprised that they really were transported in just a second. Teleport is a spell that allows you to instantly go to a place that he has already visited once, and his doppelganger only got to this place in 4 days. Clenching his hands into fists with happiness, he says that now he can go anywhere he wants, and he is burning with curiosity to learn something else. Ladon asks the hero to extend his hand. The guy doesn't understand why he needs to do this, but without asking too many questions, he fulfills the dragon's request, and when he stretches out his arm, he gets a tattoo in the form of a dragon. The wall in front of which he stretched out his hand begins to crack, and the guy finds himself in another dimension. The guy can't believe that this is possible, and the elves just get excited about how amazing and beautiful this dimension is. Ladon tells them that the ground they are standing on now is one of the ones he has sealed. The hero does not understand why it is sealed, but the dragon is in no hurry to answer him. Liam realizes that apparently he does not want to answer him and asks if this means that they can use these lands. Ladon tells him that he can do whatever he wants with them and that he can even found a country here. But these words do not delight the guy, but only strain him, and he tries to hide his emotions with laughter. But then he turns to the girls and enthusiastically says that these are sealed lands that were guarded by Ladon himself, and he allowed him to use them. Then the girls take turns thanking first the divine dragon and then the main character. Walking through the forest and exploring the area, Liam thinks to himself that he and the elves have set foot on the sealed land. To decide on a place for the village, they first need to find a water source, but it is nowhere to be found. This is also noticed by Reyna in her own words. The guy says that these plains are very rich and that there should definitely be a reservoir here. Then the guy calls Undine, his familiar, and from a small creature it becomes the size of a human. This is a Celsius water spirit, as Liam has not fully mastered the magic of summoning medium-ranked spirits. That's why he has to get out of it like this. The guy explains to her that he wants to find a source of drinking water. Undine only asks you to rely on her. And after that, she confidently waves her hand, slightly opening her eyes to see what is happening better. And they direct their hand towards the plain, after which a whole fountain of water begins to spray from there. And all those watching this are delighted with such a spectacle and at the same time are surprised by the power of the Undine. For a while, the fountain of water reached a large size, but over time it began to get smaller and smaller. And in place of the land, a river has now formed there, flowing along the trees. Undine approaches her master and asks him if he is satisfied with the result of the work she has done. The guy says that this is exactly what he needed and thanks the girl, and Undine, in turn, is glad that she can help her master. The main character realizes that now all he has to do is find a person who understands construction. 3 days later, clenching his hand into a fist, the guy is glad that he will finally be able to activate the teleporter. And then he asks Reyna to come to him for just a minute and tells her that these kids, pointing to the 3 dragons sitting next to each other, will protect them while he is not around. The girl says that she understood everything and wishes him a good journey, but still. Reyna does not have time to finish, as Liam is already passing through the teleporter and the girl is surprised that the main character literally disappeared before her eyes. Susie is also surprised no less, and says that their leader is really an amazing person. Meanwhile, Liam has successfully teleported to another location and is now also in the forest. The guy notices that with a sweep, he can activate only 19 spells, and he reflects that it took him 3 to summon the younger Ladons, and he has only 15 of them left. Without thinking twice, the main character decides to spend them all on 15 teleportations. This greatly lifted his mood as well as shocked him, and he is surprised that now it takes him only a day to recharge, and this cannot but please him. And at this rate, he will master it entirely in a week. But then he decides to stop and thinks about whether it would be faster to raise the mana limit and climb a step higher, to launch 23 spells at the same time. Ladon just grins at the guy and says he's a busy little man, but the hero answers him that if you hurry, you will make people laugh. And then he remembers the crystals, Lakukuro crystals, which allow you to instantly restore spent mana. And with their help, he repeatedly activated the teleporter and replenished mana. The guy notices that the activation time has been reduced to 15 minutes. But that's enough for him. He got into a combat-ready position. He says this activation will be done in a minute. Even 1 minute spent can cost him his life. The guy is already starting to breathe heavily from fatigue, but he doesn't stop and says that everything is fine with him. He realizes that he has mastered the magic of teleportation in just a day. Sometime later, mansion. It all happened when the main character hurried to look for a carpenter in Joy. He was unexpectedly summoned by Princess Scarlet. The girl notices the guy and asks him to sit down. Although the hero is confused by this, he still sits down on a chair near the table and they are sitting opposite each other. The guy still decides to ask why the princess called him so urgently. Clearing her throat, the girl says that she wanted to ask him something. She asks the guy if he has heard words like promised land from the dragon. The guy does not understand what she is talking about and asks her again what kind of promised land this is. The hero reflects and says that he has heard about the sealed land, but absolutely nothing about the promised land. Her words have shocked him, and he cannot understand what it means. Then the guy remembers that Ladon asked him to protect the elves, and that's why he wants to build an elven village on the lands he has sealed. Liam begins to explain to her that before visiting her, he was on his way to the Carpenters Guild, but there was no one who was ready to leave his hometown. Scarlet asks the main character if he can't use magic to build a house, but the guy, embarrassed, answers her that he does not own the magic of construction. And then a brilliant idea comes to his mind. He asks Her Highness to introduce him to a good carpenter, even if he refuses, but the most important thing is that he be a jack of all trades. The next day, the princess, as promised, provided him with a carpenter. And here is a little dwarf standing in front of him. He introduces himself and says that he is a court engineer, and his name is Dwarf Gorak. He doesn't have time to chat with Liam, so he wants to get down to business, and immediately warns him that he has no desire to become a familiar of the main character. The happy guy, due to the fact that Scarlet fulfilled his request, responds to the dwarf's warning that everything suits him. Then the guy sticks out his hand, on which he has a ring, and pronounces the words, "contact call." And the court engineer does not understand why this is happening to him. Gorak's doppelganger appears next to him, which shocks the dwarf. And Liam, in turn, hugging Gorak's double by the shoulder, says, addressing the princess, that he will borrow him for a while. Scarlet is surprised by such a cunning and thoughtful plan of the guy and says that this is how the hero thought everything out, and now everything has become clear to her. Stretching out his hand to the princess, he asks her if she will go with him to the sealed land. Hesitating a little, the girl nevertheless agrees and holds out her hand, thinking that most likely this sealed land is somehow connected with the promised land. As soon as the girl touches the guy's hand, they immediately disappear, and all thanks to teleportation. And now they are already in another place. The girl is surprised and does not understand what just happened, but the princess interrupts him in mid-sentence and asks him to wait, examining the area in more detail. She says there used to be a Legala Valley here. The guy explains to her that she wasn't real, but this place is authentic. Ladon had told him that he had sealed these lands by disguising them as rocks, and as soon as the girl realizes this, tears begin to flow from her eyes. She realizes that she was right after all. And the main character asks the princess if she is okay. Removing her hands from her face, the girl says that she wants to ask Ladon something. That is, the dragon, whether this place is really the promised land. The dragon answers her and says that he promised nothing to people. These words make the girl even more sad, and she says that's what it means. And the main character, coming closer to Scarlet, says that she shouldn't get upset. The girl does not understand why this is. And the guy, smiling at her, replies that Ladon told them that he had not promised them anything. Or it may be that people themselves called this promised land, and over time all the names just change to the right, and then the princess comes to a realization. And now it becomes clear to her, because in order for humanity to be saved from the end of the world, it was invited to a new paradise, that is, to the promised land. And no one knows in detail how it really happened, because in people's minds, it's just a legend. The girl takes something out of her pocket, and Liam wonders what the princess is holding in her hand. Scarlet holds a sword in her hand and explains to the guy that it is called the Key of Fate. The guy can't believe that this ring resonates with the coat of arms, and asks to give this ring to him. As soon as Liam touched the ring, the whole earth began to move, and then the hero could not understand if the earth had really taken off. The princess finally realizes that this is the Valley of Galala, and the guy can't believe that this land was built into the valley. The surface of the earth also continues to move and change, and Scarlet declares that she is sure that this is the promised land. The main character agrees with her and says that it probably is. Holding the ring in his hands, Liam says it looks like magic, and he wonders if he can use it to lift the earth. He gathers all his strength and tries to do it, but it didn't work out. The hero realizes that he does not have enough mana, and without the power of the palm, he will not succeed. Scarlet sits on her knee, and the guy does not understand what the girl is going to do and asks her about it. But the princess ignores all his questions and only asks Liam to build a new country here, namely, a country that will become a paradise, and eventually begs him for it. The guy can't believe what he's heard at first, and then tells her not to worry, because he'll do everything. The girl continues and says that she swears allegiance to the Lord of the Promised Land. Although the hero originally planned to set up a village for the elves here, something went wrong, and now he has to establish a new country here. 17 magic missiles fly out of the hands of the main character, all of them aimed at the crocodile next to him. These missiles clearly hit the target, and this causes significant damage to Liam's opponent. But the guy does not stop there and continues to attack him, while telling Amelia, and Claudia to go through and use the Spear of Fate. This spear is in his hand, and it looks like an arrow that is heading towards the crocodile. A huge explosion forms at the place where the arrow landed, and the princess and the main character freeze, waiting for the shockwave to subside. Liam entrusted the construction of houses for elves to the phantoms of the court engineer Gorak, while he and the princess were cleaning up the Promised Land. Scarlet watched the action so mesmerized that she did not notice how the guy had already finished his attacks. The princess realizes that she has been staring and is embarrassed by this, apologizing for it, and then explaining that she was just extremely fascinated by the scale of the protagonist's power. The guy tells her that as soon as they finish with the clearing, but does not have time to finish as Her Highness, the princess looks at him menacingly, having conceived some kind of plan. And then he calls him the Lord. The hero does not understand the reason for her mood change, but the girl, in turn, asks Liam to call her by her first name, no more Your Highness, because now she follows him. The guy does not understand how he can be so rude to a member of the royal family, but still agrees with her. Even though she says so, but the princess still belongs to the royal family, and he can't just be familiar with her. Liam says that even though she moved in with him, she was in a high position in society. The girl tells him that according to the stories, her mother's family has dragon blood, and therefore her family has always been considered noble, and women with dragon's blood were married off to a member of the royal court. She turns to face the main character, to look him straight in the eye, and then she says that as the heir of the Dragonland, she wants to be a servant of the divine dragon. The guy likes her attitude, and Ladon says to go a kilometer to the north, because there is something there that can please Scarlet. Liam conveyed these words to the girl and asks what she is going to do now. Scarlet emphatically declares that naturally they will go there. After all, this is the order of the divine dragon. Sometime later, the hero and the girl came to the place that Ladon was talking about. There is a large gate in front of them. Liam wonders what it is, and Scarlet tells him that it looks like some kind of ruins. And now they are already going down the stairs, opening the door. As soon as they descend, they notice a dragon sitting in a circle. Some letters are written on the wall. Coming a little closer, Scarlet asks, pointing at him, if he really is a divine dragon. The hero answers her that this is not the case, and he is made of iron. Ladon breaks into their conversation and tells them that this guardian is made in his likeness, and asks the heroes to defeat him. After Ladon's words, the guardian opens his eyes and begins to move, realizing that he will have to fight Liam and Scarlet. The guy doesn't understand how they need to defeat this dragon. Ladon says that ancient signs with his name are inscribed on the dragon's forehead, and if they erase one of the symbols, it will turn into a word that means submission. These letters start to light up and stand out. The girl watched this carefully and looked at what kind of letters they were, and then she told the main character that it was necessary to erase the third letter, which is on the right. Liam says he understands everything. He begins to use his magic, which causes the dragon to lean towards the ground, then coming even closer. The hero puts his hand to the letters on his head and activates the Spear of Destiny. Magic works great. And the keeper, in turn, does not understand what is happening to him, understands that something is bothering him on his head and tries to shake it off, but to no avail. Then he leans over to Scarlet, and the girl is a little stressed. Liam explains to her that, as the symbols on his head say, he obeyed the blood flowing in her veins. When she realizes exactly what the dragon has done, she breaks into a smile and realizes that the dragon has recognized her dragon blood in her. She says she will catch up with the hero immediately after completing the recovery. However, up to this point, control over him is unstable, so he decided to leave Scarlet with him and return to the elves himself. Sometime later. Here, the main character has already returned back with the help of a teleporter. But what he saw shocked him. The whole forest was completely destroyed. The main character does not understand what could have happened here. The girls run up to him and begin to explain that they were attacked by werewolves. And now he sees a whole pack of werewolves in front of him. They start growling at him, and their boss starts a dialogue with him, addressing them as dirty barbarians and then asking them to get off the sacred ground. But the hero does not understand what is at stake and what kind of sacred land it is. The werewolf continues and threatens them that if they refuse to leave her, then they will tear their bodies into small pieces. But the guy stops him, asking him to wait a bit and listen to him. In response to his request, he only gets a cut from the claws of a werewolf, but for Liam it's nothing, and he just used healing magic, and his wound instantly healed. Seeing this, the werewolf was already heading towards his relatives to deal with them further, but the main character did not give him 2 steps to step, as he immediately used a spell called Lightning Strikes. And his whole body was paralyzed by lightning, which made him unable to move and fell to one knee, having dislocated one paw. The werewolf says it's nothing, but Liam continues to insist on his own and asks the werewolves to listen to him. He calls for a little Ladon, and here in front of them sits a little dragon, and the guy asks, addressing the werewolf, how he feels. He, in turn, cannot believe it. And the hero says that his guesses turned out to be correct about the fact that the werewolf is somehow connected with the palm. Sometime later, after a short conversation, the elves and werewolves stand on both sides of Liam. The guy summarizes everything that was said earlier and clarifies whether he understood everything correctly, that werewolves used to live here. And, following Ladon's orders, they drove outsiders from the outside world. The leader of the pack says that he understood everything correctly. Then the main character says that they are somewhat similar to the elves, because before the girls were also under the protection of the palm. Now the werewolf understands what is happening, and he apologizes to the elves, saying that he did not know the whole truth. Rihanna calms the werewolf, saying that there is nothing wrong with that, and besides, they are also servants of the divine dragon. The girl then asks the werewolves if they would like to sign a contract with Liam. Susie joins the girl and says that they have signed a contract with him and swore allegiance to him, just like the palm of their hand once. The werewolf sees no other way out, except to follow the example of the girls and also sign a contract with him. The guy understands that they have no reason to refuse, because it's like swearing allegiance to the palm again. He reaches out his hand again and starts his work, giving the werewolves names. He cast a familiar spell on them. He gave one of the werewolves the name Chris, and then he notices that she was a girl, which shocks him. Chris confirms that he is a girl and asks, "What's the big deal?" Liam laughs sheepishly and explains to her that he thought all werewolves were males. After the evolution of Chris and the other werewolves, the construction of the village accelerated in an instant, and everyone was busy with their work, and the main character watched the workflow. While working, Chris notices a guy and her mood immediately rises, and she runs up to him, calling him the master. And then she jumps on top of him, hugging him with her legs. The main character did not expect to see such a violent reaction to his appearance. He calms the girl down and asks if she did a good job. Chris tells him that's exactly what it is, and then he points his finger at the wall. But Liam, looking in the direction the girl is pointing, notices that everything has fallen apart. She makes a frustrated face and asks the guy for forgiveness, saying that she will try and fix everything. Liam calms her down and says that it's enough for him that she can fix what she broke and help the others with the construction. The girl enthusiastically replies to him that she will do her best and goes on to work. The hero, looking at her, thinks that she is a good girl. Then he goes on and comes to the broken boards, and he's wondering if he can fix it all with magic. Ladon tells him that if the guy can't do it with magic, he can just build it. The dragon tells him that the most important thing in this case is visualization, even more powerful than when using magic normally. He asks the guy to present all this as clearly as possible, what he wants to do and how exactly, the process itself and its result. Clenching his hand into a fist and closing his eyes, the guy begins to imagine how the board becomes whole again. But as soon as he opens them, he notices that nothing has happened. Liam thinks maybe he just lacks imagination. The dragon tells him that everything in this world has a cause and effect. Thinking about what Ladon told him, the guy realizes that he meant the beginning and the result. To be more precise, the beginning is the materials, and the result is the finished product. And closing his eyes again, he begins to visualize. First of all, he needs to imagine the step-by-step scheme of actions in his head, then shape the mana as if he had molded it from clay. And then the hero realizes that his imagination has finally started working, and he puts the finished part back in place using the spell Shape Memory. He calls Chris and asks her to come up to him and break the pole he is pointing at. The girl agrees and effortlessly breaks this pillar into 2 parts. But they instantly come together, and the girl is surprised that the pillar managed to recover. Chris carefully examines the pole. The guy explains to her that this is shape memory, or to be more precise, this spell remembers the shape of inanimate objects, and no matter how she changes it, the object will return to its previous state. Chris is thrilled with this news, and he tells the owner that it's just wonderful. Ladon is mocking the guy. Still, he didn't expect Liam to invent new magic in one day and says the kid is a very interesting person. The guy realizes that he has revealed the secret of spell development. From Undine and Celsius, he just imagined a more powerful spell in his head. Liam notices that he has about twice as much power, and that's very cool. He developed the highest form of magic rocket, a powerful rocket. Ladon hopes that at this rate, the main character will develop even more spells. The guy tells him that's exactly what he's going to do. The dragon says that since he has decided so, he will need to learn more about this world and advises him to start with his country. And then he unwittingly learns a lot of new things. The guy grins and realizes that it's pretty good. But he believes that his magic has a lot of potential and asks what the person who first created magic did. It all started with the fact that he created something out of nothing. So he must learn how to create magic without cause and effect in front of his eyes. The dragon starts laughing and says that Liam amused him and how interesting it is for him to watch the main character. But suddenly, he hears someone calling his name. It was Reyna. She tells the main character that the pixies of this area are asking for his protection and say that they were attacked by people. This news shocks the guy. A man dressed all in armor and mounted on a horse comes closer to them, and addressing Liam as a baby, he asks if he is from here. The guy answers him uncertainly that this is his country. The man's face shows shock. He does not understand how it is and then asks what this country is called. The guy can't give him a clear answer and remains silent for a long time, which begins to annoy the person. He asks Liam if he's being a jerk and why he's not answering him, but other people stop the captain and ask him to move on. His comrades support his thought and remind the captain that they came here only for reconnaissance, and if they continue to waste time on this boy, they may fall behind the squads from Jamil and Kistador. The man turns around and urges his horse. People are about to leave, but suddenly Liam uses the spell Powerful Missiles 17 times. The captain doesn't understand what he's saying or what he's leading up to, and the hero, in turn, warns them that these are his lands and his country. And if these people invade this territory again against his consent, he will use force against them. But these words angered the man even more. He already wants to go fight with him, but his comrades are trying to calm him down and reason with him. And the hero only scoffs at how incomprehensible these people are. And when he gets behind the captain, he throws him off his horse and takes his place himself. The same thing happens to every member of the army. People scream and fly up. Horses can't understand what's going on either. Once on the ground, the man only looks askance at the main character, and the guy, in turn, tells them not to come back here anymore, and he asks if they understood him exactly. Sometime later, worried, Reyna approaches Liam, but he asks the girl not to worry, saying that he has already dealt with them. Eventually, the guy decided to take in pixies who asked for protection. Liam, addressing Reyna, says that he can give names to everyone so that they can evolve. The girl informs him that she has already found out that all pixies agree to this, and the guy is just surprised that there are too many of them. Reyna explains to him that they were all inspired by their example and decided to trust him. The hero does not believe that they just took their word for it. But the girl says that both pixies and elves never lie. So they had no reason to doubt. With the help of familiar magic, Liam gave names to about 100 pixies, and they evolved into elves, and the population of the village increased by another 100 people. Sometime later, all the villagers gathered around the huge dragon statue. Reyna asks if this is really a statue of a divine dragon, and Chris is just happy about it. Scarlet, addressing the main character, says that she has finished restoring the characters. The guy is surprised by her speed and says that he needs to talk to the girl, and then he asks Chris and Reina to follow him too. Sometime later, all four of them are sitting at the same table. The girls are waiting for the guy to start a conversation. The hero puts someone's helmet on the table and asks them to look at it first and wonders if the girls know who it might belong to. Scarlet assumes that he is from the Principality of Partha, as are her kingdom of Jamil and the kingdom of Kistador. It borders on the Promised Land. Now it becomes clear to the guy that they were patrollers. Reina says that they were the ones who attacked the pixies. Scarlet thinks that people from Jamil and Kistador will come here soon, although initially these three countries were separated from each other by the high slopes of the Galala Valley. But the reborn, Promised Land has created a new territory. Liam understands that everyone wants her, and he asks what they will do. Scarlet resolutely declares that she wants to create a state here, and all for their sake, and for this they need three conditions: land, inhabitants, and strength. At least everything is already very clear with the earth. There will be many times more residents. The hero says that there is only strength left, and they need soldiers, something like a defensive unit. Chris breaks into their conversation and asks to leave it to her, and assures them that they will be able to defeat all the enemies of the owner. Liam notices that beastmen are very good at fighting. Such praise is like a balm for Chris's soul. Scarlet continues and says that once they realize that they are strong, they will not attack them weakly. The girl suggests that everyone present conclude an alliance with someone. The guy asks if she means by this that it is better for them to enlist the help of allies. The girl tells him that everything is exactly like that. The hero asks if they can handle the patrolmen. The girl also gives him a positive answer to this question. Now everything becomes clear to Liam. They will build a village and fight back against the enemies, and then show them their strength. It seemed to him that it would be easy, but the next day the situation turned in a completely unexpected direction. The next morning, Liam and the girls are standing in front of a man who introduced himself as Leonard Berkeley. All four of them are quite conflicted about this Leonard. But then Scarlet suddenly abruptly calls him the Marquis of Berkeley, which surprises the main character, and he asks if his girlfriend knows him. She explains to him that he is an aristocrat from Jamila. The man himself says that he received an order from his lord, King Lorenzo II, to meet with them. And also, Jamil's kingdom has no intentions of fighting, and they want to sign a contract with Liam's country. The guy can't believe it. Berkeley continues and says that if he accepts their offer, the main character will be able to marry the first princess of their kingdom, Scarlet. Both heroes stand in shock after hearing this. The guy thinks that Berkeley most likely knows that Scarlet connects with this land. Liam turns to the Marquis, but he interrupts him and asks him to just call him Leonard. Then he asks him if he has ever encountered Scarlet. This question takes him by surprise. He apologizes to him because he could not have foreseen that the guy would understand politics. Leonard tells him that he has seen the princess many times, but the hero cannot understand why he is lying so blatantly to his face. And how could he suggest such a thing in front of Scarlet? He does not know what to do, and he wants to consult with someone about this situation. Then he decides to apply all the knowledge he has gained, and the image in his head develops. Liam used all the lines of simultaneous magic and created a new spell, telepathy. He starts talking to the girl with the help of magic and asks her not to be scared. The girl did not expect this and asks if she is talking to Liam now. He then asks the girl if he should accept Berkeley's offer. The girl thinks it's worth it. And whatever his true purpose, if she got married, she could buy at least 6 months of time. After all, if the first princess of the kingdom Jamil gets married, it will take a lot of time for Cristador and Partha just to find out their true intentions. Liam informs Scarlet that he understood everything, and then he says, turning to Berkeley, that it would be a great honor for him to receive Her Highness the Princess. Leonard is already happy, but the hero asks to give them another year. He would really like to accept his offer, but under the circumstances, the guy is ready to take care of Her Highness for only a year. This surprises the man a little, but he says that he understood him and will definitely convey his words. Here, Ladon bursts into the conversation, and now he understands what the heroes are up to. But Berkeley also underestimated Liam, so he needs time to appreciate him. But Ladon tells him that his gut urges the guy to be careful. Leaving the village under construction at full speed, he flew to the city. The guy can't believe that there are such beautiful mansions in the capital, and they are much more luxurious than the Hamilton estate. Then the girl asks a rather strange question. in which he asks if Liam is really the real overlord. The guy tells her that's exactly what it is. After all, he needed to put a bookmark on this place so that he could immediately get mixed up in the capital. He notices the aura of the palm around him and cannot understand where it came from. The dragon notices that he has noticed everything correctly, and these are the remnants of his power, albeit very insignificant. Then the hero approaches Scarlet and asks if something inherited from the palm has really been preserved here. The girl says that he understood everything correctly and asks him to follow her. She leads him to the room where the dragon sculpture is located. She explains to him that this thing is passed down from generation to generation in her mother's family. Ladon thought they were all lost during the war, but it turned out like this. Then he tells the hero to apply magic on this statue, and best of all, a complete cleaning. Liam asks again if he really needs to use magic on this particular statue. The dragon says yes. Then the guy, without thinking twice, raises his hand and casts the spell, Complete Purification. But then suddenly, Scarlet's armor changed and became completely different. It's very annoying for the girl. She uses the spell, Holy Spear, and everything becomes the same. Scarlet, breathing heavily, says that she got the impression that she had used up all her strength in just one volley of magic. And he reproaches the Lord for handling such complex spells so easily. And Ladon says that this armor was created by his forces, and people call it combat magic armor. With them, people can use his power with their mana. Liam reasons and now understands why this armor was lost during the war. Now the hero says, turning to Scarlet, that he realized how cool this armor is. But the guy did not expect that she would have enough mana for just one hit. The girl bows her head and asks the Lord for forgiveness. Ladon says this is all because high-ranking armor and 3 types of them have been created, and these are made of high-quality gold. Liam doesn't think that's the case, and says, addressing Ladon, that they have someone who knows more about combat magic armor than anyone else in the world. The dragon did not expect this from Liam, but says that then he will need to prepare the highest mithril. Following Ladon's advice, he created a figurine in the form of Ladon Jr., combining the highest mithril with his mana. The girl holds this figurine in her hands and is touched by its beauty, saying that Ladon Jr. is just a cutie. The hero says that Ladon asked me to tell Virgo to sign a contract with him and let her shed her blood on him. The girl listened to him attentively and then said that she understood everything. Scarlet did everything as the dragon said, and after a little blood was spilled on the figure, the girl began to feel how power appeared in her armor. Then she began to test it using a holy arrow and launched it into the wall. Scarlet notices that she has persevered this time, and the armor itself seems to be alive. But Ladon explains that high-ranking magical artifacts are as close in shape as possible to living organisms. This is what people often call a magic sword or a witchcraft blade. Liam points to the girl and says that he will give the familiar a name that means war manager, and that's the name Ares. Even a dragon can't believe that it could have been done that way. And Scarlet notices that the armor has become much lighter, and now she feels much more powerful. Deciding to test her strength, she uses a holy spear and makes a hole in the wall. Ladon laughs at this, saying that it is such an unusual sight, and even at his best, he had never met a person who would have thought of such a thing. The guy asks him, he doesn't happen to be talking about the guardian palm. The dragon tells him that Liam has noticed everything correctly. The guy is shocked, and then asks, is he also one of the combat types of magic armor? Ladon says these are his personal ones. The main character wonders if by any chance he needs them to fight 3 dragons. Liam asks if he can take them. The dragon only tells him that he can, to try. He asks the girl to follow him. After a while, they find themselves in a village near a dragon statue. The main character realizes that Ladon is amazing, has his own mind, moves at will, and at the same time is a huge statue. Spilling some blood on him, he casts the spell, Contract. And the statue seems to come to life, and the guy, without wasting a second, says the spell, Equipment. And here he is, all dressed in armor. Then he decides to test his new strength and launches powerful rockets, but he did not expect that there would be 37 of them. After that, he fell to the ground. Scarlet is worried about his condition, but he's fine. It just took a lot of mana. Ladon says it's quite curious, and that the main character is the 3rd one who managed to put them on and stay alive, and in fact, the 1st one who was even able to subdue his magic, but the guy is not particularly happy about it. Besides, he didn't know it was such a powerful thing, but the dragon offers him to master them, and then Liam will be able to conquer the whole world. Holding some crystals in his hands, the main character says that they have recovered. He's happy with that. And Scarlet, standing next to me, looks pretty worried. Liam apologizes and asks the girl if he can borrow her guardian palm. After the girl agrees, the guy calls an item box, which absorbs the dragon statue. Scarlet conducted political research in the capital from different sides regarding what Leonard had told her. So he teleported her to the city once more and returned to the village, where everyone was working tirelessly. The knowledge and skills of the illusory Gorak, the incredible power of the werewolves, the elves deftly working with their hands. With joint efforts, the construction of the village was progressing at full speed, and now there are slender rows of houses. Liam notices that it looks like the work is nearing completion. Rihanna approaches the guy and says that Chris just told her that there is a tribe of trolls nearby. The main character asks her again because he did not understand what kind of trolls they were. To clarify, those who are healthy and under 2 or 3 meters tall, rough and pumped up. The girl says that this race of giant and muscular creatures is exactly like that. Liam has heard that they constantly go to extremes. There are both rebels and kind-hearted trolls. Then the hero asks Reyna what kind of trolls they are in character. The girl answers him that they are very noisy and violent. The guy says it would be bad if they started a riot here. The girl thinks that they need to be lured to her side. The guy says that he understands everything and thanks Reyna, and then he asks if she happens to know where they live. The girl knows their location and tells Liam about it. Sometime later. As soon as he found out where the trolls were, the guy went east. He was greeted by barren wastelands with twisted earth. The hero notices that quite recently there was so much growing here. He takes the stone in his hand, and yet, as he thought, it is iron ore. There is no greenery in the area, but a lot of resources are stored in these depths. The guy realizes that he is not alone at the moment and asks the trolls if they have finally deigned to appear. There is a whole bunch of trolls standing in front of him, viciously opposed to him. The troll standing in front of everyone asks the guy who he is. But the hero did not lose his head and proudly answers him that his name is Liam, and he's creating a country here, so he wanted to talk to them. The troll tells him that all people lie and he doesn't trust them. The guy politely asks them to trust him because he will not harm them, because he's already made friends with elves, pixies, and werewolves. But the troll does not like this offer, and he hits the ground with his baton, almost hitting the main character, and tells him to get lost, otherwise he'll kill the guy. Liam realizes that the situation is getting much more serious than he expected. All the trolls connect to the leader and start hitting the ground with batons. The guy doesn't understand what he needs to do. Maybe they are really strong, as it seems at first glance, but he does not want to allow even more destruction. Liam's foot falls into the gorge created by the troll's blows. His opponent just laughs angrily, watching the guy's torment. The hero realizes that he is trapped, because he thought only about their strength and lost his vigilance. Now stuck with one foot in the pit, the troll can finish him off with one blow. And now, he's already swinging at Liam. And the guy, being trapped, thinks whether he will have time to escape. And so, the rest of the trolls stand aside and watch what is happening. But now, the leader had already hit the ground, in the very place where Liam was. The troll was sure that the guy was dead. And a boy jumps out of the pit unharmed. The troll can't believe his eyes that after such a blow, not even a scratch remained on Liam, and the hero is only glad that he managed to carry out his plan. Thanks to the Guardian Palm's combat magic armor, he came out unharmed after such a blow. But still, his hand, on which he has a ring, hurts, and he casts the spell, Cancel. Looking around, he notices that the others seem to be fine too. This angered the leader even more, and he was about to engage him in battle. But he's distracted by one of his charges, and then the troll notices that all his comrades are sitting and shaking with fear. Liam turns to the troll and says that the blood went to his head and he almost injured his comrades. There are about 30 of them here, so he definitely wouldn't have enough spells. Therefore, he summoned armor and protected everyone with an increased number of illusions. The troll says that he agrees to his terms, as well as to talk to him, because he is kind and very strong. Then the hero concludes that maybe trolls are actually kind. They all sit down on the ground. And the troll asks what the guy wants from them. Liam explains to them that he will create a new village on these lands. Now almost all the elves and werewolves are there, as well as 4 people. And he offers the troll to come live with them in the village, but he does not understand why they should do this. The hero explains to him that there are many reasons for this, and it is possible that many people will come here soon, and if they don't do anything, they will destroy them, and he wouldn't want that to happen. Before agreeing with the guy, he asks first to show what his village looks like. The guy gladly agrees to spend them. Sometime later, Liam brought the trolls to the village, or to be more precise, he used teleportation. The guy explains to them that this is a high-ranking holy magic called teleport. The leader is surprised by such a concept as teleport. Chris, passing by, notices the trolls and points at them with his finger. The leader, in turn, does not understand what is wrong with this woman, but the girl is quite negative against him and asks what he has forgotten here, calling him a piece of meat. Then the troll remembers Chris and says how she dared to call him that, and calls her a damn pig himself. But in response to this, the girl only hits him in the face and says that she is not a boar, but a wolf, and how many times can I repeat this to him? She feels good after the guy is on the ground. Liam approaches Chris and asks if she really knows him. Chris explains to him that she doesn't really know him. The troll pisses her off, so they always bullied each other as soon as they crossed paths. Liam asks the girl if this means that they are comrades in a fight. Chris claims that she has 306 wins and 378 losses to her credit. The hero notices that they are just like water. Now she addresses the troll, calling him a piece of meat, and she notices that he has become somehow frail because she beat him with one blow. Liam explains to her that he did not become weaker, but she became stronger. This is because of the familiar spell that helped her evolve. The troll tells Chris that she is such a strong woman. The girl proudly declares that this is a matter of course. After all, the owner made her stronger because she is his familiar, and he also has to sign a contract with Liam. The troll doesn't understand what kind of contract it is, but the girl continues and says that since he lost to her, he must always follow her orders. He agrees with her. Then the guy starts the spell and comes up with a name for him, and his name will now be Guy. The troll immediately took on a human appearance and began to look more neat. Liam notices that his manner of speech has improved. He also notices that Guy has become shorter, but the power encompassing his body has undoubtedly become greater, about 3 times. Then Chris walks up to him and kicks him while saying that they can continue. The man easily fights off her blows without even making any effort. The girl steps back as Guy aims his fist directly at her, and Liam notices that his attacks have become deadly. The girl deftly dodges all the blows using her flexibility, and then she tries to strike. The hero watches them on the sidelines and notices that Chris handles his legs easily and strikes accurately. But it's not like they're just fooling around, and this is a real high-level battle. The trolls standing next to the guy and also watching the fight say that their boss has become stronger than before. One of the trolls asks if these are giants from the legend. This gives Liam an idea, and he realizes that trolls, after becoming a familiar and naming, evolve into a race of giants. The guy, addressing the rest of the trolls, says that everything is fine, and now he will give names. This news inspires them all. Liam's team has been replenished with giants. That's how he secured the much-needed defense and fighting strength in the future. All the villagers are busy. The giants drag the boulders on their backs and do it without any strain. But Chris, unable to even move this boulder from its place, Guy says that if it's hard for her, then you shouldn't persist so much. The girl does not understand where he found something heavy here. Chris tries again with all his strength to lift this boulder, but in the end, she only falls to the ground, unable to withstand such a heavy weight. Guy pushes aside a boulder so that the girl can get out and says that there is nothing wrong with that. And Chris, offended, warns him not to think that he has won and then runs away from this place at the speed of light. The other giants are watching the whole situation with a smile. Some time later, when the giants dragged all the cobblestones, Guy approaches the hero and asks what he's going to do with all this pile of stones. Liam tells him that he will extract metals from them. He calls the dwarf and the salamander and instructs them to put the stones in the forge and extract all the metals from them. In a few moments, everything was ready and sorted into piles. As the hero expected, the iron turned out to be the most. And holding a couple of grains of one of the metals in his hands, he asks how many higher mithril there are in total. The guy thought there would be more of him. He hoped to mine mithril from the Troll's Stone Valley and launch mass production of magical battle armor. Liam asks if it is possible to use anything other than mithril for magical armor. Ladon tells him that the highest mithril is best suited, and the rest of the items are not as effective. The guy does not understand how this is not effective, and asks the dragon to try again, but the palm immediately warns him if he uses other materials, then he will fail. But Liam confidently declares that there is nothing terrible about failure. The dragon laughs at his words. The salamander melts a large amount of iron and pours it into a mold created by a dwarf. Then the magic power of the palm is added, and everything is ready. The guy calls the familiar, and he says his name is Apollo, which means the sun. After using the familiar's magic, the armor used by Scarlet became more effective, and then he might be able to create a metal suitable for magical armor. After he summons a familiar, a figure in the form of a sun appears in his place. Liam explains that it looks like him, and apparently the name determined its shape, and it seems to him that the magic power has also increased. As in the case of the others, depending on the meaning of their names, they themselves evolved. The dragon notices that the hero still managed to create a suitable metal for combat armor, and that this is an amazing idea, and it is very interesting for him to watch the main character. Since Liam managed to create metal for armor, he decided to create as much of it as possible, and, as it turned out, you can't reuse one name. Naming is a primitive spell that can be used every day, but why is it so difficult? When using a single name in such a spell, the magic power becomes cloudy and evaporates. The guy understands that he has enough magical power for steel, but coming up with names is quite a difficult process for him. After intensive brain activity, 15 sets were created, 5 each for elves, beastmen, and giants. Meanwhile, most of the villagers are training in the field, improving their physical skills. Chris tells Guy that he is moving very slowly, and that it wouldn't work that way. The man replies to her that her hand strikes are also not at all impressive. This makes Chris furious, and with even greater effort begins to strike. The hero notices that, apparently, only these two are fighting for real, and not training. Rhina only says that they get along well with each other. Liam thinks they'll work well together as a team, and in a fight against small groups, these two will show excellent results. Sometime later, people on horseback came to the village. The most important one calls the others and tells them to watch, telling me that elves live here. And they laugh at the fact that they have always wondered what kind of unclean land it is, but it turns out to be a real treasure trove here. His friend tells him that if they sell them, they can live happily ever after. Then the man, addressing all the villagers, informs them to behave calmly, and if they try to resist, he will have to punish them. Liam was about to get into a fight with him, but someone's hand stopped him. It was Reyna. She said something in Susie's ear. The elf came closer to the people. The man reacted positively to this, saying that this was the right idea. But she alone will not be enough, and warns everyone to be ready, because they will catch everyone here. But Susie only responds by using her fist as an answer, and the man falls off his horse, landing on the ground. His comrades do not understand how this could happen, and after that, the girl deals with them. The enemies are defeated. No one is able to get back on their feet. Guy is surprised that the girl managed to cope with them, and Chris notices that these people are just small fry and the gentleman should not dirty his hands about them. Liam is proud that even weak elves have become so reliable, and if it's all about magic armor, then it's worth making another 20 pieces. At least now, all the villagers will be able to stand up for themselves. But the guy is horrified, remembering that he will have to come up with names again. And while he was distracted, a man runs up to him from behind, holding a knife to the guy's throat, and then he threatens everyone, telling them not to move, otherwise Liam may not stay alive. At first, everyone was scared, but then they saw that Liam was being held hostage and breathed a sigh of relief. This confused the man, but he continued to threaten everyone. The guy, tired of this performance, uses the spell Power Rocket, and the man lies on the ground again. All three admire Liam, and the rest of the people run away in fear after seeing this powerful blow. The evening of the same day, the hero moves to another world, and then calls for a few dozen Celsius. He tells them that there is seawater in this loot box, and asks them to divide it into water and salt, and then put it back in the loot box. The guy reflects that the number of people in the village is growing, and even if he is the only person among them, but everyone else needs salt and water for life too. They have water, but no salt. But then he turns his attention to Celsius, who came up to him asking him if he remembers her. Liam doesn't understand what she's talking about. The girl reminds him that he recently helped her evolve. The hero remembers and clarifies whether she was the first to develop from the Undines. Celsius says that, thanks to him, she saw how wide the world is, and thanks him for it. Although it is still unusual for her, but now she can move objects and influence the human world even more. He focuses on Celsius's words and asks if it is possible to inhabit objects. The girl says that if the power of a medium-level spirit is strong enough, then he can master something forever. That's why there are so many things in the world endowed with the powers of spirits. Liam says he understands now. Then he asks Celsius if she will help him as soon as she gets stronger, to which the girl replies that she will do it with pleasure, and asks to be allowed to repay his kindness. The guy performs the naming ritual and gives the familiar the name Celsius Zero. The girl notices that her strength has increased and now she will be able to move into objects. The hero summoned a dwarf and a salamander, and using iron he created a figure in the form of Zero, of course. He also used the magic power of the palm. He orders Zero to inhabit the object he is pointing at. The girl unquestioningly fulfills his request, and the guy is happy that his plan has succeeded. It is a magical armor possessed by Celsius Zero, a water spirit. Sometime later, in the village, Rihanna uses the spell Waterfall, and water bursts out of the ground like a fountain. Chris uses the Explosion spell, thereby making a fiery explosion. And Guy uses the spell Gaia Crusher, capable of breaking the earth. The elf, addressing Liam, notices that they are even better than yesterday's ones. And Chris says it's like she's 10 times stronger. And the giant says that with this power, he will definitely be able to protect his friends. Now, full power, magical battle armor possessed by mid-level spirits, enhanced by names. The production of these new armors will make a splash in the defense of the country. Giants, beastmen, and elves, reinforced with the new armor of 3 highly ranked races, will become a military unit capable of competing with the army of an entire country. The dragon doesn't know if Liam will be able to improve them further, but a man who knows magic. At this rate, one day he will definitely be able to use Ladon's armor to its full potential. And yet, the dragon thinks that the kid is an interesting person. Asuna and Jody can't figure out where the hero has gone, because they searched for him wherever they could. He apologizes to them and says that a lot of things have happened. The girl answers him that there is nothing wrong with that. And then he sticks out his hand, which contains a bag of money. Liam doesn't understand where he got the money from. Sometime later, all 3 of them are sitting in the room opposite the chest with the gold coins. The guy remembers that earlier Scarlet sent him 3,000 jamils as payment for silence. The hero considers it important to divide them between Asuna and Jody, as this is the price for silence about the palm. But the girls refuse such a reward. Liam is trying to change their minds. And eventually, Asuna agrees to take the money, but only as a deposit. Sometime later, the girls left the store and then handed the book to Liam. The guy is touched by such an act from the girls. Asuna asks if he liked the book. The hero opens it, and then after studying all the material realizes that there is quite a lot of useful information in it. Liam thanks the girls for such a gift, which makes them embarrassed. Sometime later, sitting at a table in a cafe, the guy told them about the lands in which Ladon was sealed and that they were creating a new country. Then the hero is interested in what they are going to do, whether they will go to this country or stay in the city or continue hunting. But their answer is obvious, because they are his familiars, and they will go after him, but they will go there later. Because now, Liam is going to train all the magic he has. He summons a box of dust and feels his magic working. The hero uses a reactivation spell, and now there are 19 dust boxes in front of him. He has perfected his magic, and now the time to create a dust box has been reduced from 1 hour to 3 minutes. The girls are surprised that he learned to conjure in just a second. Asuna asks what kind of magic it is. The guy tells her that it looks like an item box. It holds a lot of objects. Jody wonders what their differences are. Then he tells them to test the dust box themselves, using the fish that the waiter has just brought. But as soon as the girls got the fish back, there was nothing left of it. Liam sums it up and says that this box helps what's inside rot faster, but he doesn't know where he can use this spell. Meanwhile, a glass of wine broke at the next table. And then the guy gets an idea. He comes back to the girls with 100% freshly squeezed grape juice. Liam asks the girls to put the juice in this drawer and wait 5 minutes. They follow his instructions, and after 5 minutes, the girls are holding wine in their hands. At first, it seemed to the hero that he would not be able to find a use for this box, but if you take soy sauce or pickled vegetables instead of alcohol, then by fermenting them, he will be able to establish large-scale production in a short time. Sometime later, being in another world, he sits in front of 10 bottles and conducts an experiment. He looks at how the wine will change depending on the aging time. The guy tries each bottle in turn. However, his tasting did not last long, since this body is still a child's. But he concluded for himself that 1 hour inside the dust box is about 1 year. Meanwhile, the villagers are busy harvesting crops. Asuna and Jody are also helping them with this. And all because Liam wanted to make different types of alcohol, and they all went to pick fruits and berries. Suddenly, someone screams from somewhere. The guy sees that some kind of monster has attacked a villager and immediately uses the spell Powerful Missiles, from which the enemy flies off in the other direction and looks menacingly at Liam and quickly disappears into the thick of the forest. The hero tried to stop him and find out who she was, but did not have time. Guy approaches Gon and asks how he is, but the injured guy abruptly opens his eyes and attacks his friend with his fists. Guy does not understand what is happening to him. Liam asks what's wrong with him, but the giant himself has no idea what is happening to him. The hero notices that his condition is unusual, and he decides to use a spell of low-level holy magic, complete purification. And Gon's look is immediately clarified, and he falls to the ground from fatigue. And yet, Liam doesn't understand what that might mean. Jody suggests that maybe he turned into a vampire, but this idea is immediately refuted by others, saying that vampires do not walk around during the day. Then the girl assumes that he may be Dracula. The hero does not understand what their differences are. The girl explains to him that vampires are monsters who hate sunlight, and they are dangerous because those whom they bite also become vampires. Jody notices that if you get infected once, you won't return to your original state, but Liam managed to save him. The girl continues the explanation, and says that Dracula is an unusual form of vampire that appears only once every 100 years. The vampires led by Dracula become stronger and cease to have a weakness for sunlight. The guy understands that they are dangerous. Suddenly, someone screams about the disaster that has happened. It was a wolf, and he declares that they are all in danger. He says that vampires have appeared. There are about 10,000 of them. Liam can't believe there are so many of them. Liam was terrified. As many as 10,000 vampires are closing in on them right now. Chris exclaimed that it was 100 times more than them. Guy said that vampires drink the life force of their victim, and that victim becomes a vampire and his henchman. Liam began to reason that all these 10,000 vampires are not purely vampires. The male werewolf agreed with him. They all belonged to different races. Liam concludes that they absorbed the forces of various creatures in the area and increased their numbers at their expense. But this is against all the rules. After all, they are all under the rays of the sun. How should he understand this? Guy is sure that Dracula is with them now. Regina says that even so, vampires live on their lands and quietly hide from the light during the day. Chris assures me that in this case they all went crazy under the influence of Dracula. Jody is sure that if they don't stop them now, they will never be able to cope. Asuna objects to her that even though Jody says so, it's too risky against such a number. If they are caught and turned into vampires, they will go over to their side. Looking at your friends. Guy, Chris, Ryana, Asuna, and Jody, Liam announced that they would have to go in a select squad. Before the battle began, Liam instructed the werewolves to evacuate all the inhabitants of the Promised Land, but everything did not go according to Liam's plan at all. One of the werewolves reported that they did not obey him at all and were completely confident that they would not lose to the vampires. Liam does not understand how the inhabitants of his land have such confidence in their abilities. He doesn't like it very much. The werewolf said that he did too, and he tried to persuade them, but at that moment, a gang of vampires attacked. The orcs began to confront them, but were overwhelmed by numbers and turned into minions. And after that, a vampire appeared who was clearly different from everyone else. The werewolf focused their attention on him the most. He was able to see it in Dalek when the orcs went to repel their attack. All the other vampires worshipped him like a king. After that, the main one began to use magic on the defeated vampires, and they all seemed to have returned from the dead. And those who were nearby only became stronger. Liam realized that in this case, this main vampire is just the same Dracula. The werewolf realized that things were bad and ran away from there. He apologizes to Liam, but Liam doesn't blame him. He said it would be worse if he became a vampire himself. And also, the guy added that the information he conveyed was very useful. Chris completely agreed with him, because she realized that they had to destroy Dracula. Liam said that now they have to do more than just what Chris said. Now, he has a complete understanding of how to fight vampires. Since the other races did not listen to Liam's warning, now he will have to protect them. They can stop him. Each of the 5 present was ready to go into battle with Liam. Not so fast, but vampires appeared on the threshold of their state. There were so many of them that there was absolutely no end in sight. Everyone shouted the same command related to the equipment of the new magical battle armor. Everyone used their best technique. Guy, Earth Rift, Chris, Explosion, Asuna, Blade of Malice, Rhina, Waterfall, Jody, Rotating Needle. Chris fights off the vampires with his fists, which seem to have gone crazy. She swears that there are a whole lot of them here. Guy signaled for everyone to leave. They need to retreat as soon as possible. While the boys were retreating from the battlefield, Liam was standing on the edge of the ravine above them. The guy looked appraisingly at the scale of the vampires arriving under Dracula's rule. Meanwhile, Dracula himself came down to them. A man in a black raincoat and suit, with black hair and dark eyes, towered over them as the vampires knelt in front of Dracula. From his mere presence, vampires go crazy and make loud noises similar to the roar of huge animals. Liam stares wide-eyed, wondering who is in front of him. Is this really him, Dracula? The guy teleported from his seat. At first, Liam found himself in front of Dracula himself, face to face. He used his magic on him without hesitation or doubt, with a slight grin on his face, and moved him into the forest, away from other vampires. Dracula looks around the area, not understanding what has just happened to him. All around, they are surrounded only by large, massive trees with a small lawn. He says that his relatives have disappeared and does not understand how this could happen. Liam told him loudly that he had cut him off from his minions. Now, they are 100 kilometers away. The vampire didn't like the state of his affairs very much. He called Liam a little brute and exuded an evil, dark aura. Liam thought that this behavior on the part of Dracula was very good. Liam assumes that he has chosen the right strategy, thereby separating him from the other vampires. Liam told him to his face that he was going to take his own life, and then his plans would come to an end. Dracula just laughed at this and asked if he really decided to end it once and for all. The vampire said they would also see if he could do it or not. Liam decided to ask him if he was going to move in with them. The guy lightly scratched his cheek. Dracula stated that he certainly wasn't going to do it. No one will stop him until he can turn all races into vampires. The guy took note of his words and quietly pronounced the names Amelia, and Claudia. Then the guy stood in a suitable attack stance and finished the spell with the words to release powerful missiles in the amount of 19 pieces. At this time, Dracula stood silently and did not move from his place. The missiles failed to reach their target and were stopped by the main vampire at arm's length. He used his power to make the missiles explode in the air. As soon as Liam relaxed his vigilance, a dark aura of an incomprehensible substance appeared behind his back. The guy turned back and managed to react by teleporting to the side. A little more, and he would have received a blow from Dracula. Liam asked him a question when he managed to get behind him. Dracula expressed his anger at the fact that Liam had unpleasant magic for him. Clenching his hand into a fist, his tattoo began to glow. He said the three names again, Amelia, and Claudia. But now he had already said the sacred spear spell in the sum of 9 pieces. Liam seemed to have multiplied, and spears were pointed at the vampire from all sides. The spears began to pass near the body of Liam's enemy, which made Dracula scream in pain. His whole body was covered with a black, thick haze. Liam exclaimed that he had succeeded, but he couldn't relax yet. As soon as the smoke disappeared, there were only spears stuck in the ground where the vampire stood. Liam certainly didn't expect this. At this, Dracula just grinned and said that now his move is to use attacks. He was smiling terribly at the guy, already anticipating victory. The man spread his arms to the side, and his cloak began to flutter in the wind. A thick haze covered his entire body. By stretching his arm out in front of him, he was able to catch Liam. He ended up behind him, and even teleporting Liam couldn't help him avoid it. Reacting quickly in this situation, Liam loudly cast an illusion spell. As soon as the spell worked, Liam himself was able to free himself from the clutches of a vampire, and his doppelganger was bitten by Dracula. The vampire was impressed by the rich supply of spells that Liam possessed. At this time, the guy himself was trying to catch his breath a little from the fright that rolled over the wave at that very moment. The guy cast a cancellation spell so that his doppelganger could disappear. Liam was very serious. He also had a trump card up his sleeve. This trump card was Ladon's magical battle armor, but if he put it on, then the instantaneous firepower would increase by 3 times for sure. The catch lies in the fact that if he uses them, he will instantly spend all his energy. Liam was constantly spinning in his head that this was his last trump card. The guy doesn't know if it will work until he tries it himself. Liam started sending attack after attack after attack. First, it was fireballs and then ice needles. All these attacks were nothing to the vampire. Dracula smirkingly told him that all his attacks are useless against him because he is immortal. Dracula, with a haughty expression on his face, told him that he did not obey the logic of this world. He has no life, therefore he will not be able to die this way. Liam was hooked by the words that a vampire has no life. Without any hesitation, without a single emotion on his face, Dracula deftly cut off his own left arm. He said that this body is just a vessel. It exists by absorbing the life floating in the air. At the same moment, the hand was rooted back to its original place and white smoke was coming from it. As Dracula himself says, he is not alive, but he is not vulnerable as long as there is life in this world. He said that all attacks would be futile, no matter how much he tried to attack. Liam was turning over the most important thoughts about the vampire in his head again. He's not alive. That's the most important thing. Dracula tells the guy that he doesn't need to worry. His despair will disappear without a trace when he becomes one of his many relatives. Dracula deftly crossed the distance between them and grabbed Liam by the hair and opened his mouth, exposing sharp fangs. He wanted to bite Liam so that he wouldn't have time to do anything to him, but Liam created a box of dust between them into which he imprisoned the vampire. A box of dust, just like a box of objects, cannot admit living beings into itself. However, with the inanimate, it's a completely different matter, which is why exceptions are created. Dracula knocks on the walls of the box, not understanding what it is at all. Liam stood in front of him with his head held high. He wonders how long a vampire can live in a box where there is no concept of life. Now, Liam will be able to see it. 1 hour has passed since Liam managed to lock the vampire in the box. It follows that a whole year has already passed in the box itself. Liam continued to stand in front of the vampire and observe the whole situation. The box was designated by the boy as Dracula. 1. There were no changes in the box itself, but Liam continued to monitor it. He assumed that maybe nothing would come of it if he just waited. There is only a small chance that Dracula can somehow, or in some other way, deal with this. Liam is not going to give up. Exactly 9 hours have passed since these discussions. The box that was designated as Dracula 1 was already considered half alive. Unable to stand in a stand for such a huge amount of time, Liam still sat down on the ground, exhaling slightly from fatigue. The dragon's voice praised Liam for deftly dealing with Dracula with just one spell. The boy thought it was cool if just one was enough. Instead of launching 100 balls, he better uses one large-scale attack. Some people really rely too much on their talent for multiple magic. But the dragon noticed that Liam was a completely different person. Having finished the dialogue, the boy decided that it was time for him to return. With a slight smile on his face, Liam created a portal, thanks to which he moved to a new place. Thanks to the magic of the teleporter, the boy appeared in the place where his friends were, in a large ravine among high stone walls. Asuna and Jody shouted his name loudly when they saw Liam in their field of vision. The girls were smiling happily at him, clearly waiting for the guy to come. Asuna asked him if everything went well. Jody also wondered if the guy could defeat Dracula. They were obviously enthusiastic and energetic. From such a flow of energy, the guy just timidly answered them with consent to all questions. Liam asked the girls if something had happened that made them behave like that around him. Jody pointed her index finger at the rest of his subordinates. She said that things had changed recently. The vampires who were bitten sat and did not take any action. Raina, Chris, and Guy were watching them all the time. Their eyes were white and lifeless. Jody reported that the vampires had suddenly stopped attacking them. Asuna sat on the shoulder of one of the bitten creatures. She asked Liam to turn his attention to a phenomenon. The girl wrapped her thin gloved fingers around the huge fang in the monster's mouth, which easily fell off. Asuna told him that she got this fang without taking any great effort, as they fell out by themselves. Jody continued Asuna's thought, saying that this was how they realized that Liam was able to defeat their leader. The guy realized that the fangs had fallen out of all of Dracula's henchmen. Jody said that was probably true. Asuna also noticed the change in the color of their skin. Liam was smiling contentedly to himself. After Dracula's death, his servants still remained, but we can assume that they are finished. Suddenly, those who were influenced by Dracula had their shoulders shaking. They began to cover their faces with their hands, whimpering in pain. After that, they started screaming wildly. Asuna didn't understand what was going on at all. At that time, Jody loudly called Liam Kun. The vampires, who were screaming in pain, slowly began to become covered in a white haze and disappear before their eyes. Liam genuinely didn't understand what was happening to them. He asked Ladon, the dragon that sits in it, if he knew what was going on here. Ladon replied to his master that this was the effect of Dracula's magical power. Ladon told the master that his power controls living beings, but now its source has been destroyed. Liam tensed at his words. He asked him if all those affected by Dracula began to disappear after him. The guy realized that his business was pretty bad. He asked if there was any way to stop it, clearly hoping to hear an affirmative answer. Liam clenched his hand into a fist, and the seal on his hand began to glow. He cast a complete cleansing spell and put his hand on one of the vampires in pain. His whole body began to glow brightly. The black smoke was gradually leaving. The guy's idea worked, and the vampire was able to become again who he was before he was influenced by the bite. He was pleased with this outcome. Liam said 3 names, Amelia, and Claudia, and then used purification 19 times. Following the use of this power, humans, ogres, goblins, and vampires began to recover. They were happy not to be influenced by this force anymore. However, many more creatures were still under the influence of the forces and were calling loudly for help. Liam understood that this would obviously not be enough to help everyone at once. Ladon's voice in the guy's head was telling him to calm down and remember their conversation, which was not so long ago. At first, the boy did not understand what the dragon meant by this, and then he realized everything. He remembered his words that it would be fun if everything could be solved with one spell, and that would be enough. Liam began to pronounce the words loudly so that the magical battle armor of the Ladon guard appeared on him by itself. He folded his hands, leaving a space between them. Mana began to accumulate between his palms, which the guy increased. Then he opened his arms to the sides, and a bright light began to pass through his entire body. He was thinking about turning his mana into magic with area damage, and it would become a single, complete cleansing. After a moment, all creatures, without exception, stopped feeling pain. They were smiling happily. After such a spell, he was left exhausted, but he was glad that everything worked out. His eyes began to close and fell. He only managed to hear his name. A little later, the guy came to himself with a loud gasp of surprise. The boy's eyes were wide, and his eyebrows immediately furrowed. He lifted his head up and saw a shining crescent moon. Liam realized that it was still night. From the realization of such news, the guy exhaled as if he felt relief. Asuna sat down next to the guy, not understanding why he was happy at all. They were very worried about him and his condition. Jody was also standing nearby, worried about Liam's condition. The guy asked how long he had been unconscious. Asuna told him that he had been unconscious for about an hour. Following the answer, the guy asked a new question, whether Dracula's forces had dissipated. Jody agreed, because now everything is fine. The guy took note of all the information he heard from the girls and decided that he had to do one thing before morning came. Liam asked Jody if she could call the vampires to him. The guy gave an important indication that he needed not those vampires who were turned into them by a bite, but those vampires who were them at birth. Jody agreed. While everyone was gathered, the oldest of the vampires stepped forward and bowed deeply to Liam. He asks the young magician to spare them. When the old man straightened up, he made a speech that he was ready to take full responsibility for all that he and his relatives had done. He asks to take his life in exchange for the pardon of other vampires. Liam firmly and clearly refused him. The guy is not going to repay them for their own sins because they were ruled by Dracula himself, not them. The elder timidly agreed with him, not knowing what to expect. Instead of ending the life of the elder and all his relatives, he asks him to join their team. He will make it so that vampires can go out in the sun during the day. The man was stunned by this statement. Liam thought he had to do it before the sun rose. If pure-blooded vampires get exposed to the sun's rays, they may not be able to stand it. The guy was thinking about how to fix it, and he had an idea. The head vampire thought about it. The guy yelled, immediately asking to understand his words correctly. He's not going to do to them what Dracula did. He asks him, firstly, to obey, and secondly, not to sow discord. The guy showed him everything on his fingers. With a smile, Reyna invited them to become friends, and Chris supported her by making a gesture with her hand, meaning 5, and offered to do it all together. The older vampire looked at his kin. They all looked at him, considering their decision. After a short pause, the crowd shouted loudly that they were counting on Liam. The guy accepted their words, noting that now everything is solved. Liam held out his right hand in front of him. He wants to improve the magic of the familiar. He studied magic and created new spells, learned about magic armor and created them. And then he was able to remake the magic armor to suit his own needs. He's going to do the same thing with the familiar's magic. When he uses it, the creature that signed the contract with him evolves. He's going to manage this evolution. Liam said a spell loudly. Supreme Familiar, don't let your body disappear under the sunlight. The guy's hand shone brightly, and his gaze was full of determination. From that moment on, Liam gave him the name Alucard. Now, a pure-blooded vampire has been able to become a noble vampire who will in no way be able to say goodbye to his life because of the sun. The man's eyes were full of surprise. 5 days have passed since the battle, but for a box, it's 100 hours. The list of contents has been updated and Dracula has disappeared. The guy assumes that this may have happened because his mana has squeezed everything out of him and now he can use 19 spells, and with it, 23. Events began to unfold somewhere on the mainland. A man in a gray suit asks the second oldest for forgiveness. However, he says that it really was only one boy who defused Dracula. The man with blonde hair says he has nothing to worry about, but the other is protesting. He asks what will become of Dalton-sama's plan, which took advantage of the hype to fulfill its moral duty. He replied that it was no longer so important. He was more worried about the boy who defeated him, that is, Liam. The magic ball that stood on the table showed the image of a guy, even when he used force in battle. One of the men said his name out loud. Another clarified that he had seen part of his battle, but no one knows how he struck the last blow. The elder exclaimed at such an unexpected sight, because the guy is able to release 17 magic projectiles at the same time, uses the power of the dragon and his armor. They mistook him for a monster. The situation has changed a lot because of this. The man demands all the information about the guy. He invited his ally to continue watching him. And then, the man plans to take all his lands. His voice was stern, and his eyes were filled with equanimity. The man he was negotiating with agreed with his decision and asked to be allowed to leave. The man was still staring at the ball with the image of the ball with the image of the boy. Over a certain amount of time, sooner or later, a monster will be born. However, the man does not know whether he will become a hero or a demon king. It scares him. The action unfolds around Liam again. The boy was very tired and sat down on the grass to rest. He was able to make a familiar contract with thousands of creatures. The boy believes that the main problem is not in the spell itself, but in coming up with a name. He looks with a bit of sadness at the two slimes that are jumping around the owner. He feels sorry to call them Slime 1 and Slime 2. Liam exhaled a little, realizing that he had spent the whole day on this. The guy broke into a slight sweat, smiling guiltily at his friends. As soon as the guy closed his eyes, 2 small slimes appeared behind him. They were jumping around him animatedly, calling the guy Liam-sama. One look at them was enough that the guy was delighted. These babies have evolved from simple slimes into drop slimes, and they even learned to speak, which pleased the boy even more. The guy turned to Slarin and Slappin with the question of what had happened to them. The 2 slimes were animatedly saying his name, smiling happily. They have prepared something for their master. Slappin released the wooden figurine from his body right into Liam's hands. The guy realized that they were able to carve this wooden doll inside their bodies, and he also noted the incredible smoothness of this thing. The guy said thanks to the 2 kids. He took Slappin with one right hand, and Slappin sat on his master's lap. They loudly told him how much they loved him and smiled happily, which made their cheeks turn pink. With 2 small, slimy friends on his shoulders, he returned to the village, where construction is in full swing. In order for his new friends to have a place to live, they began to turn the village into a city. Rihanna, the very intelligent headman of all the elves, supervised the construction work itself. She gave loud and clear instructions to her subordinates on every issue of the work. Guy and other giants guard and patrol the Promised Land. They stand guard all the time so that no one dares to interrupt or harm them in any way. Chris, along with the rest of the werewolves, hunt and create warehouses with supplies. A girl holds a large animal carcass, smiling happily in her arms with it. Everyone had a certain responsibility assigned to them. Guy approached Liam, addressing him as a master. He bumped into a man during his patrol. The latter told him that he wanted to meet with the ruler of the country and asked how he looked at it. The slime silently jumped off their master's shoulders. Guy added that the stranger introduced himself as a Kistador trader. Liam thought about his words. He decided that it would be better to meet with him, and he thought more about the ruler of the country. Suddenly, the guy panicked. He does not consider himself a ruler. Guy exclaimed that he was even saying such a thing. He is their master and their esteemed king. There was a clear misunderstanding of Liam's reaction in the man's gaze. He asked Guy when he even managed to become one. Guy said he would ask everyone and took a deep breath. The giant shouted loudly that he considered Liam Sama their master. There was no doubt in his eyes. For a moment, the whole village froze, paying attention to Guy's loud shout about it. He turned to them again. Are there really those among them who disagree with this? He struck a pose, resting his hands on his belt. One guy who looked like a wolf shouted that there were no dissenters here. A girl who looked like an elf also added that such a thing was not even discussed. The vampire asks Guy why he asked them this question. The Great One who stood next to the vampire does not represent anyone in this role except Liam Sama, and two slimes are jumping next to them. They praise him as strong and tough, their king. Ladon said it was very nice. Liam didn't understand his words and asked the voice in his head, which he thought was nice. The dragon was released from his body, and everything around them shone with a bright light. The dragon said that he is the golden dragon, Ladon, and declares the following on his behalf. He recognizes Liam Hamilton as the ruler of these lands. The guy lit up with happiness to hear this about himself. All creatures, young and old, gathered around their new king. They loudly shouted congratulations to him, praising his birth as a king. Everyone was very happy with this news, and Liam was even taken aback by it. The action begins in a huge castle. The weather is wonderful outside. Scarlet was sitting at the table in this beautiful structure and was waiting for her interlocutor to appear, leaning her hands on the edge of the table. The girl exhaled noisily. Suddenly, there was the sound of a portal in the corner of this room. Liam appeared in space. He smiled at the girl, making her pay attention to him. Scarlet immediately straightened up. She called Liam Mr. and said she was waiting for him. She smiled back at him timidly, as if she was thinking about something. The guy asked her if something had happened. Scarlet replied that he was right. She had been thinking for a long time the last few days. She suspects that the minister and his majesty are hiding something important, but still something motivates her not to leave these lands. Scarlet lowered her eyes to the floor, and her eyebrows furrowed slightly. Liam was a little surprised by this decision. He realized that there was some kind of mystery here. The guy asked Ladon if he had any ideas on this, but the only answer to Liam was the dragon's silence. The guy took Ladon's silence as a lack of his ideas. He asked Scarlet if it might be more convenient for them. The girl did not deny such convenience on their part. She says that all these are small things, unworthy of the attention of the divine dragon. Scarlet smiled a little foolishly at herself. After their conversation, the guy moves back to their village, which the residents are building on their own. Scarlet expressed a desire to continue the investigation, and Liam, leaving her in the capital, went alone to expand the village that turned into a city. The guy asked Ladon what Darkon had and still has thoughts on this matter. The dragon asked why he had decided that at all. Liam argued that the palm of his hand was like water in his mouth, and those who are inclined to lie will prefer to remain silent. He asked him if it was true. Ladon noted Liam's behavior as very entertaining, and that he was smart. Still, he is not a simple 12-year-old boy. The guy was embarrassed and pouted. The dragon agreed to answer. The dragon decided to ask if he knew why a guardian was needed. Liam asked, "What is the keeper of the palm itself?" The dragon nodded at him. The guy began to reason that most likely the guardian is needed to protect. The dragon asked him again, not to defend him. Not to defend him. Liam said it was only a guess to protect someone who wears combat magic armor. Suddenly, the guy felt like an electric shock. It seemed to dawn on him that he had made a mistake. If armor is not needed to protect the one who wears it, then it turns out that it is a weapon. The armor was guarding something. The guy was very surprised by the course of his thoughts. And then he opened a portal and moved to another place. This place turned out to be the dungeon of the guardian Ladon. There is a seal on the floor of the huge room. Liam began to think that he could be guarding. The dragon suggested that he try to fill the space with magical power. With his latest level up, the dragon is confident that his mana should be enough. Liam nodded in agreement. He opened his arms and began to release magical energy from himself. The floor under the guy's feet began to shake violently, which made Liam a little scared. Lowering his head down, he saw that in the place where the seal was, a ladder appeared leading down somewhere. The guy went down it very carefully. His face shows that he is tense. As soon as Liam climbed all the steps of the sliding passage, he opened his mouth in surprise. Ancient symbols were presented in front of him. There was also a seal in the center of the room, and ancient inscriptions were depicted on the wall. Ladon said that he had noticed them correctly. The dragon explained that in front of him was the memory of antiquity. It represents the whole space, Liam exclaimed, which means there is magic here. The dragon only grinned at his words. He said that this was the dragon's lair. This is a space containing ancient magic and forbidden curses. Liam was delighted to hear about ancient magic and curses. Ladon explained that this is the first level. The seal is removed here in stages, depending on the amount of magic power. The guy's eyes were shining. The first level, followed by the next ones, he really liked all this. Ladon grinned at his words again. He told him to try it first. Liam agreed to his proposal. The guy stretched out his right hand in front of him, and all sorts of symbols began to emanate from it. He was able to read the magical inscriptions in just an instant, just like the previous spellbooks and Magipedia. Liam, determined, declared that he could now cast 19 spells at the same time. Suddenly, several rather large bubbles appeared in front of him. All of them were flying in the air and did not change their positions. Liam asked Ladon what kind of bubbles they were, but the only answer was a snide laugh from the dragon. As soon as the guy touched one of the bubbles with his index finger, it immediately burst. Liam asked if that was all, because nothing had happened to him. That's where he was wrong. His magic was gone. It stopped working. Ladon was just waiting for this. Liam began his reasoning. As soon as he touched the bubble, all of his 19 spells disappeared in an instant. He tried to summon a fireball and clear the space, but the bubbles did not disappear anywhere. Liam clarified with Ladon that the bubbles are needed just to prevent the use of ancient magic. The dragon replied that the guy grasps everything on the fly. In that case, Liam said the word activation loudly, and a second later tried to use his teleportation. Nevertheless, the guy was very annoyed that the spell was cancelled, and now he is near the gate, which was overlaid with boards. Ladon continued to explain everything to the guy. He said that the space itself is a memory of antiquity. Until Liam mastered the spell from the magic book, he couldn't do magic without the book in his hands. In that case, he decided to use a different tactic. The guy picked up a stone that was outside and threw it into the bubble. It turned out that they could not be penetrated. The guy tried to use a magic rocket, but was defeated here too. The bubble has only split. Liam began to reason again. The laws of physics are powerless in this place, and magic is absorbed and dispersed. Ladon tells him that if he passes the test, he will be able to master this magic, and over time, he will be able to master even more. Ladon giggles. He says that Liam has no problem using spells at the same time, and if he uses one spell and another at the same time to intercept, then he will succeed. Liam had an idea. The guy loudly cast a contract summoning spell and created a doppelganger for himself. Then he recited the contract summoning spell again, but this was the first spell. There are 18 left for the new magic. The guy and his doppelganger stood in a pose to prepare for the attack. While the real Liam was silently watching everything that was happening, his doppelganger used the spell of 19 powerful missiles. All the missiles either flew past the flying bubbles or hit the target exactly, but divided them into two. 1 hour has passed since the first activation. He then began to cast an ancient magic spell, 18 absolute force shields. The guy stretched out his right arm in front of him, creating shields shaped like hexagons. Liam told his doppelganger that the shield would be in effect for about 5 minutes. The doppelganger replied that this time would be quite enough, and offered to carry out the attack again. Liam's doppelganger used a spell of 19 powerful missiles. At this time, Liam himself used the absolute force shield spell, as 5 minutes had already passed. Pleased with himself, the boy exclaimed that they had succeeded. There was no limit to his delight, and his double showed absolutely identical emotions. He explained that an absolute force shield is a spell that deflects any one physical attack. It has the same properties as these bubbles flying in the air. If he has mastered them, then now he needs to check them out. The boy, along with his double, moved into a field free of any buildings, more like a lawn with trees and bushes. The boys stood in front of each other. The doppelganger raised his hand up, announcing the start of their training battle. Liam at this time cracked the fingers of his hands, agreeing with him to start a fight. The doppelganger used the loot box spell, and a large box appeared above his head. A huge boulder fell out of it. In front of the stone itself, the guy created a shield. Thanks to him, the falling stone broke. Liam is surprised that the shield was able to reflect it completely. After such a test, the guy tried to drop 2 stones at the same time instead of 1. The first one ricocheted off, and the second one went right through. Finally, he tried to do it with magic missiles, and the shield couldn't stand it. Liam was able to figure out how it works. And now, Liam's doppelganger has decided to play big. The owner himself was not against it, and only with an ardent thirst to try protection in the case agreed with him. The doppelganger started using multiple attacks at once. He created new clones for himself, which were used with greater force by power rockets. Liam reactivated his absolute force shield, adding a line of simultaneous, continuous attack to the spell. Thanks to this training experience, Liam watched how long the shield could last and which attack it would fall from. As a result of the experimental combat, Liam came to the conclusion that one shield can withstand only one blow. He needs to act at the speed of his opponent, or even faster than necessary. The guy thought about it. In combat, there can be about 100 attacks at the same time. Asuna attacks much faster than he defends. When used in practice, this can become a problem, and therefore strengthening magic will increase the speed and number of activations. Ladon called it beautiful. On the next floor, Liam will have an absolute magic shield waiting for him. He needs to increase his magic power level and break the seal. Liam said he would definitely do it, and then told the call to cancel the command. After a bit of thought, Liam asked Ladon what characteristics an absolute magic shield has. Ladon replied that it was a barrier protecting any one magical attack. The guy exclaimed that he could do it. Stretching his arms out in front of him, Liam concentrated. The absolute power shield he wields protects against physical attacks, and the absolute magic shield protects directly from magical attacks. This creates an image of a causal relationship. Above his head, in the sky, the boy created an absolute magic shield. A very bright light was coming from him. Liam lowered the shield at the level of his arm and asked the dragon if he had done everything right. The dragon slightly narrowed the pupils of his eyes and furrowed his brows. He was quite impressed by such a sight. Ladon expressed himself in front of Liam with the phrase, "I take off my hat." To master ancient magic in this way is something incredible for him. That's how Liam created the ancient magic of the absolute magic shield for himself. The action takes place in the village. Asuna loudly shouted Liam's name. The guy noticed her and asked what happened. Asuna told Guy to tell the guy to come to him urgently. Liam asked her where he personally needed to come. The girl replied that this place was located at point number 17. The guy understood her and went to this point, constantly saying it out loud. As the number of residents has increased, the area of the city has also become larger. In order to teleport freely through the city, Liam set up several teleportation points. With a light movement, Liam touched his foot to the ground, landing gently. He called out to Guy, who was standing in front of a line of guards. They were all dressed as one, with flags and shields in their hands. Everyone glared at each other, but no one dared to talk to each other. Upon hearing his name, Guy turned his head towards Liam. The man loudly exclaimed that he was waiting for him. Liam asked why these people were lined up. Guy tried to answer briefly. A messenger arrived from the Duke of Part. He said he had some very important business with Liam. Liam was a little taken aback by this news, but the hedgehog agreed to the meeting anyway. It was in his mind that this was extremely unusual for him, because someone wanted to meet him, the future king of these lands. A man dressed in obviously expensive clothes got out of the carriage. His hair was pulled back in a ponytail, and as soon as he left his waiting place, he immediately bowed to Liam. The man expressed gratitude to the guy. It's a great honor for him to meet him like this. The man introduced himself as an ex-brast, and a smile spread across his face. The boy also introduced himself to him as Liam. He turned to him XACCs and clarified that he did not have any business with him. The ex replied that he had come here on his master's orders. He has only one wish. This desire is for Liam and Flora-sama to get married. From his words, the man stretched out in a smile only more. Liam was even more taken aback when he heard such words. The man clarified that he had already married Queen Scarlet from Jamil. Liam said no, but they decided to postpone it for later. The man understood his words, but continued to interpret his speech. He said that his master does not really like to postpone paying for anything for later. Liam did not understand his words and hesitated even more. Ex-sama waved to the servant, who opened the carriage doors without hesitation. From there, a girl came out to them in beautiful shoes. The man said that if Liam didn't mind, he would like to give him Flora-sama right now. The girl was very beautiful. The dress was just right for her figure, and her hair was beautifully curled into curls. Liam was only more alarmed by this. He thought, does this really happen? Prepayment and arrears. Are such terms applicable to a wedding? In his opinion, clearly not very much. He doesn't understand at all what's in the minds of the aristocrats. To begin with, Liam asked them to go into the city because this is not the best place to negotiate. The ex-Sama started pushing, saying that Liam accepted his offer, but the guy started to stop him. Suddenly, it seemed to him that something terrible was about to happen, and he was not mistaken. The guy stretched out his hand, reciting the spell of an impenetrable magic shield. Flora stepped aside a little while. Liama dealt with the monster. After that, a powerful explosion occurred. No one expected such an attack, and therefore, many knights remained lying on the ground. After the explosion, a small ravine remained of the essence. Someone exclaimed, "What happened here?" At this time, Liam was holding Flora in his arms, who had lost consciousness. The element of self-destruction, that's what it was, Ladon explained to him, a monster that can be activated by magic. Ladon also told him that if he had hesitated for even 1 second, then this girl would have turned into something that no longer looked like a human. Liam exclaimed, "Who is capable of such a thing at all?" The dragon only laughed at his words of indignation. He told him that it could be anyone present here next to him. Liam looked around. He can't find Axe anywhere. Liam wondered if it was his doing. Ladon said that X is more likely the one who gave such an order. Liam asked what this even meant, but the dragon did not know the answer to this question and added that he did not understand people. He especially does not understand those people whom others call aristocrats. The guy frowned, and the word aristocrat stuck in his head. If Ladon doesn't know anything, then Liam should find someone who has that information. It was with this thought in mind that the guy teleported to the capital and brought Scarlet with him. The girl was amazed at what she saw. Liam imagined the still unconscious girl as the Duke of Part's daughter, Lady Flora. Scarlet asked him again. She had never heard of this girl. Liam told Scarlet that a man came to them who introduced himself as an ex-Brast. The man said that the Duke would like Liam to marry Flora to confront Jamil. Scarlet says she's heard his name before. He is one of Duke Part's servants who does all the dirty work. Liam said that as soon as the girl approached him, a monster suddenly appeared, called the element of self-destruction, and this powerful explosion happened. Scarlet bit her lip, and words full of anger came out of her mouth. She says that would be a great excuse. It's easy to say that he took the girl to the monster kingdom, but she was mercilessly destroyed by the monster. Liam clarified that it was all just a production. Scarlet agreed with him. Ladon added that humans are truly interesting creatures. Meanwhile, Lady Flora began to recover a little. The girl's eyebrows were trembling slightly. Scarlet was the first to notice this. She supposed it looked like Lady Flora was about to wake up. The girl apologized to Flora, who had not yet recovered, and very carefully laid her on her side. She slightly pushed back the sleeve of her dress and the neckline. Liam panicked a bit and asked what she was doing. Scarlet was not at all embarrassed and only said in a serious tone that she suspected such a thing. Scarlet said that Flora is the Duke's illegitimate daughter, the daughter whom the Duke absolutely did not want to recognize. Scarlet found a small mole on her curvy curves, a little from the edge. Liam doesn't understand how this could be related. The girl explained that illegitimate children have their own special marks on the body, which indicate their purpose. She said that the girl was not a fake, and she was completely sure of it. Lady Flora was able to open her eyes with great difficulty. She asked where she was now, and if she had gone to heaven. Fear and doubt could be read in her eyes. Liam told her not to even think about ending her life, because he saved her. Flora asked the guy about the words about salvation. Liam can't figure it out. Didn't she know anything? The guy stands with his arms crossed on his chest, while Scarlet bent down and reminded her about the explosion caused by a certain monster. Flora felt as if an electric shock had passed through her, and her eyes were round. She screamed loudly for them to let her go and move some distance away. The girl assures them that she is dangerous. Liam exhaled slightly, not understanding why this was happening again. He asks the girl not to worry, because he can protect her with his magic. Lady Flora screamed that this was absolutely not the case. She was really scared. The girl lowered the sleeve of her dress. There was a strange mark on her forearm that looked like a mark. Drawings came from it like small branches, and it was completely black in color. The girl said that a powerful curse had been placed on her. Flora added that such a measure, in the form of a curse, was needed in case the explosion did not take her own life. Scarlet clenched her teeth at what she heard. She didn't understand how anyone could do that. It's too cruel. Lady Flora said that she was very grateful for saving her life, and she had absolutely nothing against them, but she asked them to move away from her to a safe distance. Liam was in thought, and then decided to ask Flora if she was sure it was a curse. Flora said that's exactly what it is. The girl didn't understand why they were just standing next to her. She asked them to run away from her. Suddenly, he grabbed her wrist. The guy cast a spell of complete purification, and Lady Flora's hand shone with a bright light. The girl watched the actions of the young magician and saw how something similar to a tattoo gradually began to fade away. Liam said that everything would be fine now. He asked her if there was anything else beyond this curse. The girl was still in mild shock that it had disappeared. She couldn't believe it, because she was told that there was no way to remove this curse. The girl broke away from her thoughts and apologized to the guy. She suggested that perhaps she should leave. Liam asked her if someone was coming to pick her up. The girl replied that, of course not. She was a little confused about what had happened in the first place. In that case, Liam suggested that the girl stay here. He would not let the Duke of Parth lay hands on her again, promising that he would protect her. All these words, Liam spoke with hope and faith in him, putting his hand on his heart. From such words, the girl was stunned. She expected to hear something different, but clearly not a similar speech. She slightly let out tears, pressing her right hand to her chest, and agreed to stay with him, under his protection. The action takes place in a small room. The weather is pleasant and sunny outside. Scarlet slammed her hands on the table loudly, looking very angry at the same time. She apologizes for saying this to Liam, but he is greatly underestimated. Liam, a little confused, asked about the Duke of Partha, but Scarlet cut off that it was not him, but all three nearby states. Liam was stunned by these words, understanding everything perfectly. He considered it all not such an amazing phenomenon in relation to him, but he seemed afraid to say it to the girl in person. Scarlet said that in this case, he just needs to reveal his strength to everyone. Liam asked Scarlet again about revealing, but Ladon added that revealing means showing yourself. The guy asks the girl again if she really wants him to show his strength to everyone. She clarified that if possible, then the power of his state specifically. The guy wonders how he can do this, because he absolutely does not want to ignite a conflict. Scarlet just grinned at that. The girl told him with confidence in her eyes that Liam needed to issue his own currency. From such a statement, Liam was simply shocked. He asked if it was about currency. Does it tell him about money or not? The girl opened a small chest, from which she took out a figurine of a small dragon. This is a statuette that Liam was able to make not so long ago. If you look closely, Liam was able to recreate the dragon's face and limbs exactly, and in addition, he managed to engrave the scales. This is very clearly visible on the statuette itself. When Scarlet looked at these scales, she decided that Liam needed to create his own currency. Liam still doesn't understand her train of thought and asks her to explain it more simply. The girl took out 3 different coins and spread them on the table. As Scarlet herself said, there are 3 types of coins in Jamila. Liam listens to her attentively and is even a little surprised that there are 3 types of them. The guy took 1 coin in his hands and began to examine it. Scarlet explains to him that this coin has an odd pattern, and Liam also noticed some scuffs in different places. The girl praised him, saying that it was so. Then Scarlet picked up one of the coins, which, according to her, is the clearest. It was made in the royal palace, and it is the original silver coin. Scarlet explains to Liam the principle of coin casting. First, they make shapes from the original coin. After the mold is ready, they melt new coins with it. Now Liam understood why there was a fuzzy pattern on the coins. Subsequently, the created coins are sent to the mines, where new coins are produced. This is how coins are created, which are used by everyone in the kingdom. Liam understood her words. For this reason, the drawing on them is the most indistinct. Scarlet emphasized that such a process greatly reduces the quality of the drawing on the coin. At the same time, the drawing is extremely important, and it is thanks to him and his quality that the power and influence of the state is determined. Paraphrasing her words, Liam realized that it would be much better if he made as many coins with a clear pattern as possible. The guy raised his index finger up, now fully understanding what the whole conversation about coins was about. Scarlet replied that it was. This will have a much greater effect than the same war. This way, Liam will be able to show his advancement and the strength of his country. In that case, Liam suggested that we get down to business right away. He summoned a dwarf and a salamander, and with their help, Liam was able to turn the statuette into identical coins with a pattern. They fell down like a stream. The coins filled the huge chest to the brim. Scarlet did expect exactly this result of his work. The quality of the silver and the technique of the drawing are at a high level. She is sure that this will be a good indicator of Liam's strength. The guy was smiling contentedly, looking at the chest full of coins. Scarlet said that now he needed to create copper coins. To create them, they do not use pure copper, but most often it is created from a separate bronze alloy. They get bronze by combining copper and tin. With a small amount of tin, coins become very soft and easy to forge. With a large amount of tin, coins become hard and difficult to produce. In that case, Liam asked why not just minimize the use of tin. He doesn't understand why they mix these two metals. Scarlet went on to explain that since ancient times, people have had a big problem with silver coins. If only bronze is used in the production of bronze coins, then the value of the coin will rise high due to the cost of the metal itself. That's why they mix tin with copper to lower the value of the coin itself. Liam thought about it. If you add too much, it will be extremely inconvenient to use it. Once, Liam saw a man's head lying down, which was put on public display. It turned out that the man was arranging frauds with bronze coins. Scarlet clapped her fist, fully supporting those people. Such crimes are simply inexcusable. The melting of coins that were issued by the kingdom is prohibited. The girl's eyes were filled with the seriousness of the whole situation. Such an act undermines the authority of the state. Therefore, no state will ignore such antics of citizens who do this. Liam asked Scarlet why not mix copper with another metal that would be even cheaper. Scarlet noted the correct course of his thoughts, but there is one problem. Scarlet reminded him that when you add a lot of tin, coins become hard and difficult to change. In other words, it will be difficult to put a certain pattern on them. Liam furrowed his brows, realizing that they were back to that silver coin problem again. Thus, Scarlet summed up that it is possible to make 1 or 2 coins. But Liam added that there are too many coins in circulation. They both sighed heavily. Scarlet emphasizes that if you add too much tin, the price of the coin will drop too much. If the quality is too poor, then the authority of the state will also fall. If they reduce the amount of tin and add more bronze, then the price of the coin will rise and people may appear who will melt them down. Liam finished her thoughts. The answer was the girl's consent. She said that the amount of bronze in Jamil's coins is as much as 65%. The girl was downright proud of these numbers. This allows them to keep a balance between the quality of the coin and its price. She is confident that Liam will be able to make better coins thanks to his abilities. It will also be able to show his strength. Liam understood and accepted her words. The guy started thinking. This information is extremely important for any country. The figure of 65% stuck in his head. Here, Liam suddenly told Scarlet that he was not going to keep this ratio. The girl literally jumped up from her seat, clearly not understanding why he decided so. The guy asked her question again, and then proudly declared that he could only make them better. The manufacturing method will be the same, and it will only change the metal used. Liam called his assistants, the dwarf and the salamander, and gave them the command to start creating coins. They worked briskly, taking turns performing their duties. As a result, the copper coins were ready. The whole mountain of coins exuded a silver color from itself, which made the girl pay attention to herself. This color can only be achieved by changing the tin content. Unlike their red copper coins, these coins are lighter. The girl seemed to have an idea. She exclaimed, "Is this really a 50-50 metal ratio?" Liam replied without concealment that this was exactly the case. Scarlet seemed to shine looking at these coins. She says that's what you'd expect from him. Liam was able to produce such a number of coins, observing such a ratio. She is sure that in the whole world, only Liam himself is capable of such a thing. Later, the action began to unfold in Jamila, and specifically in the Guild of Loan Sharks. Asuna and Jody brought them boxes filled to the top with coins, and asked one of the moneylenders how they were to him. The man looked at almost every coin for a very long time and intently under a special magnifier. Then he asked the girls where they got such coins. Asuna asked the pawnbroker if he knew about Liam's kingdom. Jody added that this is a state built on the lands of promise. The man literally jumped out of his seat, exclaiming that this is the land of monsters. He said that every merchant knows about this state. He clarified whether this coin was a fake. Asuna stated that they planned to put them into circulation, but first she would like to know what exchange rate they would set. The man asked them if they were really going to trade them. Asuna only agreed, and Jody added that all these coins are of the highest quality. The merchant can't believe it. After all, they are all made of pure silver, and their pattern is quite clear. These coins are of higher quality than Jamil's coins. Asuna laughed at his words, and added that Liam is just incredible, and that's not all he's capable of. Jody opened the second chest, which already contained copper coins, and asked the pawnbroker to look at them. The man went into shock again. Holding a handful of these coins in his hand, observing the color of one of them up close, he asked what the copper content was in them. Asuna showed him a hand with 5 fingers and said that the remaining half is tin, which is 50%. The man was amazed more and more by the minute, not believing his ears. Despite the fact that the copper ratio is 50, they have a very clear pattern. Jody asked him what his final verdict was. The man closed his eyes and thought. As a result, the final verdict was 1-3. If all the coins are of such high quality, then they will exchange 1 copper coin of Liam for 3 copper coins of Jamil. Everyone who watched this was amazed at this outcome of events, and the girls just smiled at each other, realizing that in this, they could not win badly. While Liam was engaged in coin production outside the city itself, a letter was brought to Liam. Since these are extremely dangerous lands, the delivery of the letter was handled by a party of rank A. Liam carefully opened the envelope, all thinking about who could send him such a letter. But as soon as he opened it, it was as if the soul came out of him. Scarlet sneaked up behind the guy. She said he looked extremely unwell and asked what had happened to him. Liam showed her the letter, and she was even a little surprised. The letter said it was from Albruit. The girl asked if it belonged to Liam's older brother. The guy said it was him. The girl only gave a little laugh at this. And then she screamed loudly that he was imagining such a thing. This is a truly funny joke on his part. The girl was angry, which made Liam jump on the spot. In the letter, everything was said quite briefly and clearly. Albruit wrote to him that he knew about his brother's plans to found his city. He has an offer for him, and he insists on meeting with him. Liam asks her to calm down a bit and asked her what she thinks about this letter. The girl thought about the answer for a second, still looking at this piece of paper. Then she tore him in half, very easily, saying that it was completely not worth his attention. Liam asked her why she decided that. Scarlet answered him that way because Albruit, although the eldest son in the family, is still not its head. It's extremely reckless to rush things like that, and she thinks he wants Liam to give up building his country. The girl assures him that if he were the head of the Hamilton family, he would be worth listening to. However, his opinion doesn't mean anything right now. Liam understood her, answering with his eyes closed. The guy smiled gently at her, expressing great gratitude for her advice. From such words from the guy, the girl actually blushed, saying that there was nothing special here. The actions began to take place the next day. Under the gaze of Liam, Guy and his companions, Bruno, who is Liam's older brother, came into town. Bruno looks around the city from all sides. He had heard that it was a monster city, but it looked very elegant. Liam thanked him for the compliment. Bruno remembered that he had a conversation with Liam. He asked if they could sit down and talk somewhere. Scarlet joined the conversation and invited them to her residence. She said that Liam's house was a bit inconvenient to use and clarified if that was true. The girl said all these words with her hand on her heart. Liam thought about her words for a while and said that his house was in another dimension. The guy thought he didn't want anyone to get there, and so far the house is in a pretty deplorable state. The guy agreed with her proposal and thanked the girl for the presented place for negotiations. Scarlet smiled sweetly back at him. Liam motioned for his brother to follow him to the residence, and Bruno obediently followed him. The guy carefully went to Liam and whispered to him if it was really Queen Scarlet herself. Liam calmly replied that this was exactly the case. He asked what was wrong with that. Bruno hastily replied that he didn't really mean it and just thought how cool Liam was, because he was friends with Queen Scarlet herself. Liam just laughed softly and said that a lot of things just happened between them. A little later, all 3 of them were sitting at the negotiating table. Liam was sitting across from Bruno and addressed him as a brother, asking why he had come here. Bruno decided to get right to the point. Bruno said very loudly to the whole hall that he had a request to King Liam himself. From this statement, Liam was slightly taken aback and fell into a stupor. Bruno put his hands on the table and told him that he really wanted to trade in Liam's city. And this is his request. Liam asked him again if he wanted to trade here. Bruno got up from his seat and bowed to him. He's going to comply with the law, pay all taxes, and obey all the rules of his state. Therefore, he asks him very much about it. Liam also got up from his seat and began waving his arms, trying to stop his brother. He asks you to start from the beginning. Bruno smiled guiltily and admitted that Liam was right. He apologized to him, being distraught. Bruno said that this kingdom is surrounded by states such as Jamil, Quistador, and Partha. Also, monsters live here in peace without resorting to bad action. He thinks this kingdom will prosper because of Liam. He also added that there is a high probability that this city will become the center of many trade routes, and that's why he came to Liam with a request. Liam understood his intentions. Bruno came to him as the head of the family, and Bruno himself confirmed this. Liam began to compare them. Albrecht, who unceremoniously invited Liam to his place, not yet being the head of the family, and Bruno, who is the head of a poor aristocratic family, who personally came to him, to his younger brother, to ask for a favor. After not much thought and a nod from Scarlet, who also supported him, Liam agreed to his terms. Bruno's eyes shone at that moment. He got down on one knee in front of Liam and thanked him for such a service on his part.